All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Today, I am thrilled to be sitting back with Kai Stransky, an athletic recovery and wellness mentor here with a fascinating journey. Kai's story is a testament to resilience, passion, and the pursuit of wellness, making his episode one you won't want to miss. Kai graduated with a degree in Management Information Systems from Chadron State College in Nebraska. He began his career in tech support for the state of Wyoming and quickly advanced to become a threat and vulnerability analyst. His path led him to a software company working with clients on missions to change the world. Eventually, though, he moved to Austin, Texas to found Big Wave Industries in 2022. Kai's mission with BWI is simple yet profound: to help people recover and feel better. Last year alone, BWI facilitated over 450 ice baths, and that number continues to grow. Kai's life has taken him all over the United States with experiences varied as cowboying, serving as the VP of Climb Wyoming, a club aiding low-income mothers, indulging in 1 a.m. photography, playing soccer, and practicing MMA and jiu-jitsu. This diverse background enriches his approach to wellness and recovery, making his insights invaluable. I'm excited to dive into Kai's unique journey, uncovering the twists and turns that led him to where he is today. I know our audience is going to source a ton of energy, motivation, and practical advice for their own recovery journeys. Plus, here's a fun fact. In addition to managing his training and 2 jobs, Kai also cares for 16 chickens. Kai, thank you for being here and welcome to your episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Quick little edits. The Climb one was actually a foundation that we donated money when I was a VP for a fraternity of Eagles in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And then unfortunately, I don't have 16 chickens anymore. We ended up moving to a new place, and so we actually ended up butchering them. So sorry for people that love chickens, but some of them were meat chickens, some of them egg. We did get rid of, we rehomed, I think, like 6 of our egg-laying ones that were, the ones that weren't meat birds. The problem with meat birds, if anybody didn't know, is they get too large for their own bodies, and then they start basically not being able to walk, and so their quality of life goes down. So at the same time, they tasted great, but at the same time, their quality of life was great till the end, I promise. We loved our birds very, very dearly.
I apologize for the 95% accurate
No,
introduction.
it's all right. There's a lot of data out there.
I blame your Instagram. This was not my fault. This was your fault. No, I'm kidding. Most of it, though, pretty accurate.
Oh, 100%. Yes,
cool.
yeah.
When you hear like 10, 15 years of your life summarized in about 75 seconds, what sort of goes through your head?
No, that was great, because I was like, wow. And then I was like, ooh. And then because it's always weird getting compliments, at least for like, I feel like anybody, because you get a flood of memories. That's the shortest answer I can give you, of just like, I'm like, wow, I did this, and this. And it just like, for my brain and the way it operates is like, I just see these visuals of just going across. And then I think also at the same time, it's becomes a lot, because like I get kind of like, it's almost like a compliment and having someone else speak it, but then I'm getting the euphoria and the feelings of like all the fun, all the things, all the accomplishment. It's like you get to ride that like cookie high, I don't remember who came up with it, but it's like those are some of my cookies, like when I have a bad time, I'm like, hey, what is something really great I can look back on and be like, hey, I did that, I accomplished that, I overcame that.
Yeah, I could resonate with that. I had someone who was kind enough to, one of my friends said, why don't I come on your podcast, but I interview you, and we'll have like David's episode. And so I sat down about 2 weeks ago and just started jotting down things maybe we will or won't talk about. But it was a very like emotional moment of just remembering, like I started remembering stuff that happened in high school and then middle school and then college, and like you said, sort of like a lot of good memories came back and then like some painful ones, and it was just like, it was a very weird 30 minutes of just like, it was almost more like a journaling session that I needed to have more than it was prep for a podcast. And I think we're so on the move, we don't often pause to just think about like, what have I done in my existence on this planet?
Yeah, and because I think a lot of people see you as you know what I mean? Like they see the cover, and they don't realize that there's maybe not every individual, but I think there's a lot of individuals out there that have quite a bit of pages that aren't spoken about, or things or accomplishments or painful things why they show up the way they show up, or why they have the information and knowledge that they have, because like sometimes somebody like sometimes you'll get unwanted knowledge, but at the same time it's like, did that person actually have significant research and data to back that knowledge? And sometimes they do. And so, but it's like you would never know though unless you kind of like dig deeper because you focus on like how that was kind of unwanted. No, like where did that come from?
Yeah. I have a couple of fun questions or just things to talk about before we dive into your story. So I was going through your Instagram last night, and in one of your posts, you talk about it's one of your colleagues. There's a female in the video. She has pink hair, and the idea is to submerge your face fully into ice water for as long as you can. And I'll let you explain the science behind that. But before you do, so I tried it. I filled up my sink before you got here around like 12:55. I threw a bunch of ice in there, waited for the ice and the water to sort of mix so it got cold, shoved my face in there I maybe lasted like 8 or 9 seconds. I'm not going to lie to you. It made me more nervous. And I don't know if it was because, not nervous, but I think I had an incident when I was a kid where I almost drowned. My head got stuck between a boat and a side of a wall. And so the only way to avoid it was to go underwater. I hadn't thought about that moment in years. And so for me, it almost had like a reverse effect where they brought that memory back. I was just like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
I'm willing to try new things. Especially in the last 2 years, I'm like, try new things, get out of my comfort zone, say yes to commitments I normally wouldn't commit. So when I saw that, I was like, fuck it, I'll try it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I just need to try it again under different circumstances or something.
I would say yes. I would say it's we operate in a lot of yes ands. And the reason I say yes ands is because you're unique. Every person's unique. Your experiences are unique, just as an example of you just shared that. And so when you're navigating those different unique experiences or unique people, you kind of have to throw your own agenda out. Like if I'm here like mentoring or trying to help somebody or provide advice, a lot of the time that I'm thinking about that, I need to come at it from their lens. And so like back to the whole ice ball thing. So one thing is I probably wouldn't have recommended for your first time to try to hold it as long as you can. I probably would have only told you to do it maybe like 3-4 seconds. Like kudos to you, the fact that you're like, like motorboating the ice down there. Like awesome, man. Like automatically you get like points right there. Okay. So everybody's like, well, and so it makes sense, especially because you did
by myself, unfacilitated.
Let's not do what David did. First off, let's just say like props to him. Like definitely like that you get a badge of honor for that, but don't do it.
Don't try this at home, folks.
Yeah. So like it's something. So like we'll back up. So like if you get an ice bowl of water and you put your foot in, I would only do it for like 3 seconds. Like I wouldn't do it for that long. Like if you can do it longer and comfortably and not feel overwhelmed about it, awesome. Another thing that I would do prior to it is I would ground ourselves. How do we ground ourselves? Using breath. And why are we doing this? You're like, we'll explain some of the stuff behind this. So this is explain the stuff behind it. So first reason we ground ourselves with breath is because we're trying to make sure that we're less activated. Activated means that generally means our sympathetic nervous system is kind of going up here. Generally that's, where your fight or flight happens, where it's like, your panic, everything, like that's when, you start shaking maybe a little bit, like you're amped. And so grounding yourself prior to doing and submerging your face will help your body feel a little bit relaxed, because when you get that face of cold water, especially generally, and this is even like, especially for ice bath, that first few little bit is going to activate you, is going to cause your sympathetic to go up. And so if you were already kind of like a little amped up before, and you're like, all right, here we go, let's do this, we're doing, and then you're like 8 seconds, woo, like that's awesome. But at the same time, your body was probably a little activated. And so if we would have kind of done some down-regulated breaths first, kind of grounded you, basically, short version would be, in through the, through the nose, hold, and then. And so the science, so to speak, the data shows that the longer we have an out breath, the more our body feels at ease, the more does it feel unsafe. Because generally when we're in a safe situation, we're able to let our belly hang out, we're able to have a down breath. And because like our belly, that's where our organs are at. Mm-hmm. So if we're letting it out, we're not restricting, we're not protecting, we're not covering it up, then, it generally means we're in a safer environment physiologically. And so doing that, then approaching the ice bath would generally help a little bit for you not to be too activated. Now, potentially, and these are all they're theories, because there's not a lot of data out about this. A lot of it's anecdotal at this point because it's hard to measure each individual's person to all these different factors. When, in science, they want things that are going to be more static, and you can have a few dynamic things, but generally you got to have these fixed rules within an experiment to be able to actually make it producible, like reproduce. You can't, it's like you can't do one experiment and then you go and you can't reproduce that result over and over again because too many factors change. Now, could you maybe be able to set up an experiment with the face dive and everything? I would hope so. I would think so. But then where's the funding going to come from? Who cares about people submerging their face in a bowl of water, and has that extra time to get all the people, make sure they're compensated, have the the right temperature of the bowl, maybe the ice cubes matter, like what I mean, like there's all these little factors. But anyways, that's really awesome that you did that. I really thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry that it brought up, but that's something that's actually into that a little bit. That's common. So when we're going into, we're going to go into an ice bath, but when we're going into an ice bath and we're dipping in, and this is one reason why we want people to submerge their vagus nerve, which is basically, and there's two reasons actually, but basically you're getting into the ice bath and you're going above your shoulders. Like basically you're submerging it down to your neck. The reason that is significant from our point of view is that allows you to get an easier time to turn over. When you're sliding into, and obviously this is where we switch to an ice bath just so everybody follows along. When you're getting in an ice bath and let's say you go up to just your chest, your body knows, maybe even your brain knows, and maybe you're conscious of hey, this isn't that much of a threat. It's just up to my chest. So then I can just keep kind of fighting. I can keep kind of panicking. And I'm okay, but I'm not okay. You're in this limbo basically. Your body's like, well, what's going on? Are we in a threat? We're not a threat. This water's really flipping cold. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
We have found with basically, well, there is data around this, but this is also just from ice bathing lots of people, is we found that if we can get people to go down and get their shoulders submerged, get their vagus nerve submerged, which is behind their neck, that connects us into their your central nervous system, that allows people to switch over. That switch over can happen anywhere between 10 seconds to a minute and a half. Now you're like, well, what's the difference between the time period? Well, what we've noticed for the difference between that switch over is generally the resistance. My favorite quote is from Bruce Lee is be like water. Well, you got to be like water. You got to really surrender into the uncomfortability. You have to surrender into the moment. You have to surrender into this thing that's just cold water. And to our body, to ourselves, we're like, what the heck? This is crazy. What is going on? But generally, when that person is able to then switch over, how does that switch over happen? Well, in the nervous system, you're going to go up with your sympathetic, and it's going to go actually back down. So it's more our sympathetic nervous system. It doesn't just bloop and then just end up here. It actually is a loop. So you can literally go over your sympathetic and then crash back down into parasympathetic. And there's also even a DMT zone between, because every human has a little bit of DMT. So you actually go through that zone and you go back into the parasympathetic. So then that's part of the turnover. So what happens is basically you get in the ice bath, you're getting elevated. You're like, oh my gosh, this sucks. This sucks. And your body basically, to get you to calm down, but also to try to ease the uncomfortability of potentially dying, even though you're not going to die, you're in a cold bath, but your body doesn't know this. And so that's what causes that switch. And so when that switch happens, going through the parasympathetic, that's where your rest and digest and almost your calmer state is. And so it basically puts you in a calmer state to be okay, we're gonna figure this out. Let's breathe. Let's not keep fighting it. And a lot of times people get in what I call a flow state or euphoric state, because they're able to just kind of get a rush of the chemicals also. So you get the dopamine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, all those feel good, happy drugs that your body made for yourself in that switch over. And so that allows you to calm. Now back to the face. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I promise it all kind of connects with the spider web here. So when you put yourself in the ice bowl and you submerge your face, what potentially happened is you basically flipped all the way over or got stuck. So the event was traumatic enough that it kind of it elevate, or here's another way to put this. It potentially put you in the same state even though you weren't in the same state, meaning that your body was like, oh shoot, I'm head between the wall and a boat. Like it literally is like, it put like that level of activation could be similar. Like you haven't got activated like that before, or maybe you had like, but that's what's caused that memory to then get to come back up. Basically you like putting yourself in that situation, or when they put it, caused your body to be like, boom, oh shoot, that, and remember that. And this goes into a little bit of stuff, which is, in my opinion, kind of outside of my scope, but stuff that I still dabble in is just understanding neural pathways. So for us to have habits and for us to go really smoothly, you go down that neural pathway over and over and over and over again. And, it creates muscle memory and everything. Well, that literally creates grooves in your brain. So if you never activated that neural pathway and all of a sudden you're able to trigger it, it went down to that neural pathway because you haven't had a chance to process it. Because trauma is generally things that are too fast, too soon, too quickly. Our body literally wasn't able to process the energy, the circumstance, whatever. Like we didn't have you were a kid. It's like, of course it's like anybody, like, it's like, how do you process that?
Yeah.
And so that's why some of that stuff can happen. At least, like I said, these are theories and understanding from, me. Some of my stuff is a little bit, I would say off or is developing, because I'm not an expert in this. The person I would consider more of an expert, who even she won't admit she's an expert, is probably my partner and girlfriend, Kelly Morgan, who has done a trauma and somatics course to better understand the nervous system. She's been working on understanding the nervous system and the different somatic stuff since she was very young. She's been in like life coaching since she was like 15 with like Tony Robinson and stuff. And so I have to give a lot of credit to her with my understanding of the nervous system and the part that I have to own is just like that I still have some different holes because a lot of my stuff is self-taught. She actually has got certificates and like actually gone through truly, I would say, being more proficient in it, where I'm still more of an intermediate in a lot of this stuff. And that's why I have her as a partner in my company, because, I can't know everything and be kind of a master of it all. But I definitely kind of like we talked, off pod before, it's like, you need to know a little bit though. It's, you need to kind of have it a baseline. You need to have an understanding, and also be okay with, like, for example, like, it's like, I'm okay with being wrong. Like, it's like, I'm happy. It's something that's so exciting that I'm so passionate about that I'm happy to continue to learn from others, to continue to grow and know that it's something that is super complex. Like, that's one thing that I think when we see like buzzwords online, and we see people talk about like breath work, we see people talk about the nervous system and everything. And so, and I've, at least in our sphere, that was kind of funny. Anyways, in our world, like, that seems to be like a common trending thing, but there's so much more complex than people realize. Like, people just want the results. Like, we're so used, and this is my opinion. We're so used to, though, getting that instant. Like, there's numerous people in my life, even in like in the IT field, and maybe you have that in some of your stuff. It's like, people want it now. Like, just fix it. I don't care how it gets done. Like, I just get it done. We probably have all had somebody like that in our lives. But it's very much the same that in like a lot of the healing stuff. It's like, we even do the same thing with pharmaceuticals. It's like, we want that drug, we want it to work now, and we want it to just process. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. And I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I apologize, but the conclusion is that I think that when we're working with some of these tools, we're in cutting edge stuff. Like, you just ice bathing and doing that, and the fact that you were able to not necessarily relive, but have that memory or that thing come up is also beautiful and amazing, but also it's kind of frightening and scary. But the thing that I'm actually excited about, that is like, that's what some of our clients go through. When someone actually takes the time to surrender, to slow down, and you may not even have realized it, but like, in that moment, you did take the time to literally, as much as it may not have felt like slowing down, but you slowed down. You're like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm doing this conscious things. I'm going to put my whatever intention, whatever you were thinking about, wherever you were, maybe I'm just to get it done. Who knows? But those things can just come up because of that activation. And so we've worked with a lot of different clients where it's like, yeah, we're not trauma experts. We're not people that work on trauma, but has people with traumatic things come up in the ice bath? Oh, for sure, including my own. But like the cool thing is you don't even have to necessarily. This is what and this is why like going through with like integration. This is why we're so passionate about why ice bathing is something that needs to be respected. It's not just some woo-woo trend that everybody do, because you can still do that. Like I said in the very beginning of this podcast, it's like a yes. Excuse me. It's a yes and like there's a lot of there's nuances to this. From our lens and the way we like to approach it is we like to approach it from almost like a healing embodiment style, meaning that when I have you ice bath, my goal is to try to get you to be in your body, not out of your body. It's to create safety within your body through your breath, through your mind, basically your everything, like trying to get you to sink into yourself. Like I believe in basically if our heart, our breath, and our mind can all move together kind of as one and kind of be in sync, and we're moving with our body instead of disassociating out of our body, then we're winning. And oftentimes a lot of people use the ice bath to disassociate. And that's something that's very concerning to me, and something that I definitely worry about as this trend continues to go on is that's hopefully people kind of realize that they're doing that and they try to stop that, because in my opinion, the more you disassociate in that ice bath, what is it teaching your body? What is it teaching your mind? What is it? Oh, it's okay. I'm uncomfortable. I'm in pain. I can just go somewhere else. I can just kind of my body's here in this uncomfortable, horrible situation, and I'm just going to zone it out. And I'm like, that's probably not good, because at the same time, if we're able to then ground ourselves and say, hey, in this uncomfortable situation, we can breathe, we can find peace, we can find calm, we can find one thing that outside this ice bath, like, hey, that looks really cool, that lizard looks awesome, like finding things to show ourselves that even in the uncomfortable, even in the difficult situations, that we can still find that light, instead of just completely disassociating out and just trying to ignore the pain, ignore the uncomfortable, because it's still happening, it's still there, but then we're pulling ourselves even away from our own body, because where's the uncomfortability of the thing happening? It's literally in our body. And so then we're starting to ignore our own body's response of, hey, it's telling us to get out maybe. And maybe we need to honor that. Where some people are like, nope, I got to get that 3 minutes. I got to get that 2.5 or whatever, it's like, yeah, but at the cost of what? Like, yes, you can get mental benefits. Yes, you can get that high that everybody loves, the dopamine, I think 300% adrenaline rush, which is, I guess, supposedly higher than cocaine. Which is wild. And there's actually like data and studies on that. And so like, if you just use it as a drug, I think like that's great. It's better than using heroin or probably cocaine or people
Probably.
that are trying to recover. I've never done that hard drugs like that, but like I I applaud that they're taking effort in doing that. But at the same time, I think there's levels to it. I think then once you're able to do that and you're able to get your life on path and everything else, it's like, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't just plunge for 40 minutes just so you can get high. Like, even if you break up those 40 minutes, I'm not saying like, the longest plunge I've ever done, I think, is like 25 minutes. And I think the water was maybe under 40 degrees. But I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. But that was early on in my plunging experience, so to speak. It's something that literally has evolved, of becoming something that has allowed me to become more embodied, more aware of myself, more aware that, hey, everything doesn't have to be difficult and hard. And there's also ways to maybe not take baby steps, but just take even small steps towards accomplishing goals. And so one of the things that we developed is something called the WAVE protocol. And this WAVES protocol was actually developed by my partner, Kelly Morgan. And it's basically titration. Titration is basically means that like, hey, I'm just going to put my arms in and that's it. And I'm going to sit there for just 20, 30 seconds, get my body used to it, maybe clench, move my fists a little bit, keep the blood flow. And I'm just going to sit there. I'm just going to say, hey, everything's all right. I'm going to get my breathing under control and pull my arms out. And then maybe I'll just step in up to my knees, my waist, whatever you can do, whatever, like obviously it depends on what kind of tub you're getting to, but you just stepping into that water, 20, 30 seconds, get your breath under control. Yet again, it's coming back to the breath. If that's picking up on that. And then, you get out and then maybe the next time you're like, okay, maybe I do my face. We don't do it as long as possible, but just enough to like, maybe not even cover the ears, just to cover the face part. Like, let's not like go completely in, just enough to kind of get just the front area of the face. And then, and then eventually maybe we sit just in, but maybe you're only able to sit in for 10 seconds. Awesome. You sit in for 10 seconds, you breathe, you try to calm yourself, and then you get back out. And then generally we can work from that all the way up to getting somebody to 3 minutes. But the difference is I'm able to then get them associated with their body and go through that. Now, sometimes some people, kind of, because it's like I can't feel exactly what they're feeling, but like generally by that, they're able to more comfortably sit in that 3 minutes because they took time to create safety within their body, to show trust to their own body instead of just disassociating out. Like David Goggins has proven you can go really, really hard and destroy your body and still accomplish goals. And that's awesome. I applaud anybody that is able to do that because it takes a lot of determination and a lot of effort. But at the same time, how disassociated are you from your body? Like, does David Goggins have really good, sensory stuff to his body? I don't know. I'd have to talk to him. I'd have to, look into that more. But like my understanding so far in my journey of the nervous system and my body and other people's bodies and just working with stuff is like, the more you disassociate from yourself, the more you disintegrate. And when you're disintegrating, then it's like, okay, you have your brain and then you have your body. And then it's like, they're not talking. They're clashing. I can't trust that. Like, hey, you're going to put me in this cold, uncomfortable situation that you're actually going to get it out. Or maybe are you going to trust your gut instinct? Or, you get your hairs raised up on your, like, are you going to trust that your body's response? Like your brain's like, hey, everything's fine. We're just walking down the street. But your body's like, whoa, like it feels vibration, electricity, whatever. For some reason, your body's freaking out. Are you going to honor that? And every time you continue to ignore those responses, what is that telling you? Because back to the neural pathways piece, then you're just keeping going down that pathway of like, hey, I don't know, I don't, like, so then you're like, well, then when can you ever trust your instincts? Like like we drive so much up in our heads that sometimes I think we forget to be in our body, and that kind of also goes into like some of the stuff I want to talk about, like technology. When you're in front of a computer, or a phone, or whatever else, you're not really in your body so much. You're just getting dopamine and whatever else from the screen. And they're showing now, and that was one of the things that I was doing some of the podcast prep on of just like finding different studies. Like they're finding now that like, yeah, we're becoming these like dopamine deserts where it's basically like these kids or people are getting so inundated with so much stimulation that they're not able to then even feel dopamine in a normal capacity. So when they're I don't know what kind of a receptor, but when the receptor is going to basically get inundated with that chemical, it's taking more and more and more and more to eventually it burns out, just like our adrenals. So it's the same thing with coffee. Like you can drink too much caffeine and keep drinking, and then you just burn it out. It's the same. We have the same thing with a bunch of stuff. On top of, now that I found out that like basically a lot of our dopamine or serotonin is actually made in our gut, and so then I'm like, oh, so does that mean then what we eat potentially could affect that? Or like I'm like yeah, probably. And so then you have weird stuff. Let's say you're eating a bunch of processed food or getting a bunch of dopamine from maybe you're just eating a bunch of donuts, like, 'cause who doesn't like donuts? But but if you're inundated with all this dopamine from your phone or your computer or whatever else, and then you're getting, then you're just eating junk food and everything else, you're just creating all of these things that are just super kind of easy highs. And so I feel like that pulls you away further from yourself and from your own body, because it's just, I think if we don't set things to make ourselves uncomfortable, such as an ice bath, or going to walk when we don't want to, or working out or whatever else, creating some kind of uncomfortability in our life, I think then that's kind of where we decline. I think that's also like, I think that we even people that are like, let's say the top 1%ers, I feel like that, some people, at least this is what I read, because I'm not a top 1%er, but it's like they create their own problems. They create their own dramas because they have plenty of financial success. They have they have all the food, they have everything that they need. So then they cause other problems because humans by nature are always trying to analyze and figure out where the next threat was, because at one point we had to constantly worry about threats. We haven't had to worry about threats for, well, obviously we're in a real world, like people, yeah, we're world now, but like, let's say, when we did have a lot more, let's say peace and prosperity, there was a time where it's like, yeah, we didn't have to worry about a threat, but I think most of our lives, if we look back, I think most people would agree that we probably have had to deal with some sort of threat throughout our entire life. And so that's kind of probably wired us that way. If we think about back to neural pathways and everything else, I think it's like, I think we're set up to basically be worrying about threats. And so finding ways to be able to not disassociate from that threat, to be able to embody it, basically meaning that like be in our body and create a unified front against it, I think is a lot stronger than continue just to try to operate everything with logic and I guess just your brain. And I know it's kind of a weird, like all over the place, weird theory, but it's just that all this stuff for me at least, and I'm always happy to ask questions. Feel free to blast me on Instagram, but it's like, I think these are all related to how we can thrive. Like sauna and ice bath and the things that I got into, as much as they were for recovery and helping people feel better and deal with muscle soreness and everything else, it also was a really big push for me to try to help people have more consciousness of their own body and in the environments that they're around. And I feel like slowing down and going through some of these uncomfortable situations and knowing how to control your breath and how to do all these things can really change people's lives. May not always seem like the better at first, but in the end, and I say that because it's like when you do slow down, including, this is including myself. It's like when I slow down, it's like you notice things. You notice, you notice little dings, or you notice something's more dirty, or you notice, hey, I'm not speaking that way to that person the way I want to, or you notice that, hey, you're not being as kind to your dog or whatever. Slowing down into those moments and having kind of like that pause before I react is huge. And in my opinion, the sauna and ice bath can really help with that. And that's kind of why all of this stuff is kind of stacked on, is because, and I know you're like, where's he going with all this? But it's like, this is all related back to just programming, and meaning that like when you're in an uncomfortable situation in a sauna or in an ice bath and you're choosing to then think positively, you're thinking about how, hey, I'm going to control my breath. I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to try to create safety in this uncomfortable situation. So then the next time someone cuts you off, or the next time the dog irritates you, or next time, your friend or coworker or whatever yells at you, take that second to pause and to breathe in that uncomfortable moment. And you're able to program that utilizing uncomfortable tools such as sauna and ice bath, which they have, yes, all these other health benefits, but one of the things that they can do for mankind is literally help us slow down, have more emotional regulation, and to then show up better for our relationships in our society, because we're going to become less reactive, because we're able to then slow down in the moment and breathe. So that was the random rant. I don't know if anybody will be able to keep up with that.
There's the intro. There's the intro. So I have a couple follow-up questions for you.
Yes, please.
First off, I'm really excited for wherever this conversation goes based off how things are kicking off so far. Second off, so first follow-up question for you. I love ice baths and I love the sauna. When I get into a cold plunge or an ice bath, whatever term you want to use, it is pretty, I don't want to say easy, but I can get to a 3.5, 4 minute mark relatively easily.
Awesome.
For me, the hardest part, to your point, is the first. You said it perfectly. It takes about 10 to 90 seconds, and it seems to switch almost every time I do it. How quickly I can go from the panic of the, because even though I enjoy it, I'm still human. So
Yes.
any human, when you're getting into a 40-degree water, your body's gonna, and so it takes me a little bit to go from the to being able to do like a 4 second in, a 2 second hold, and then a 6 second out. But I can get there, and then once I get there, the next minute and a half to 2 minutes, however long I stay in, is very enjoyable. I feel the tips of my fingers start to tingle, and then maybe the tingling will start in my knees, my elbows, my low back, and it's almost like these different points of my body are getting activated or like waking up. And then you get out, and then I get out, and I feel fantastic. Now on the flip side, I do the sauna probably 4 to 6 times a week. And I'm currently trying to get up to 25 minutes. I was getting 20 minutes for a while. That almost felt like it was getting too easy. So I upped it to 21, 22. We're up to 25. Now, when I'm in the sauna, it's different because I am fighting that thing, potentially disassociating. And that's why I want to ask you about in every way I can. For me, the ideal sauna session is me and a workout buddy happen to be showing up at the same time, and we can just have a conversation with each other.
That, though.
The other way that I fight through it is I'll bring my phone in with me, and I'm either listening to a podcast, listening to music, playing games, basically trying to distract myself until the timer goes off. So when I'm doing that, am I maybe doing my body a service, but mentally I'm doing myself some sort of disservice by just trying to distract myself from what's going on around me?
It's a yes and. So like, yes, sometimes I think that it can be helpful to have that distraction. Like, I'm not of a component of somebody that like, hey, sometimes beers after work. You know what I mean? Like people know that it's poisoning their body. Like anybody now, in my opinion, by now, like knows that alcohol is not necessarily good for them.
Right.
But at the same time, it helps you recharge a little bit. Actually, it helps you have some social interaction with your coworkers or your friends. Like it's kind of like one of watching football. Maybe even like it's America's pastime. It's
Right.
like it's just been something forever. But at the same time, you could be doing damage, like you just said. And back to the sauna aspect of just like, because it's like, yeah, then I'm showing myself that every time I'm uncomfortable, that like I need a podcast, I need music, or I need a game, or like yeah, like you said, you're helping your body from the heat shock protein aspect and cardiovascular, and there's a bunch of physical benefits that you're really helping. But yeah, you're kind of disassociating out from the whole situation. Now, is there ways to fix that? Yes. So one of the ways, now this isn't easy. Like, yes, there's ways to fix it, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And so it would be the same way like you handle the ice bath. It's coming back to your breath. It's utilizing that breath, figuring out how to cool the air even within. So like when I go to really hot saunas, now I can usually I can breathe in through my nose and get it down and cool it. Now, for a while, and maybe because I haven't saunaed in a minute, but like it'll burn, the inside of your nostrils as you get used to it, or you can just put a towel. Like that's usually a good way. You just have kind of like a towel in front and you're just like covering your mouth and you're breathing in and you're just down regulating and then slow out breaths. Because when you're having that slow out breaths, that creates safety in your body. It's helping slow down the heart rate. So that way the heart's not freaking out as much, it's calming it down a little bit. And so then you're able to kind of slow down the whole process instead of be like, oh geez, this is hot, because your body's like, your heart started, and I'm just watching a podcast video, like so, because I'm like, I'm trying to ignore this, I'm just right. Like, oh my god, I'm dying, like I'm just like, it's like all right, 5 more minutes, and so at the same time, maybe you do need to get out, and I think that you can still work up to your goal, but it's like maybe it needs to be a little bit slower. We are so fast paced with our brain that we can think like this. Our body doesn't move as fast as our brain does. That's another thing that people really forget. That like I said, why do you think somebody that's trying to get 3 minutes in an ice bath starts disassociating? It's not just like because we're trying to get out of the uncomfortable. It's because it happened too fast. Not saying it's traumatic. I'm just saying that like, hey, our body didn't have enough time to adapt to this. Like, how often did you actually get into 32 degrees water? Oh, not very often. And you're wondering why you're disassociating. Like, but it's the same thing. It's like we don't get into a sauna that's 180 degrees all the time. I mean, now obviously it's becoming more like where we do. But like, your body's used to pushing past that threshold with the with that distraction. And so it's going to rely on that. Like, yes, I can hit that 25 minutes, but how long can I actually stay in here without distracting myself, without maybe just like grounding into myself and just getting a breath and creating that connection, cause it's almost like twofold. It's kind of like forced meditation a little bit in a way, but, it's going to benefit you, in my opinion, longer down the line. Because you're not only you're also artificially boosting your dopamine right there just by the electronics, just like we clicking the button is like podcast anything, like it's like that's creating some kind of good feeling in us, which is trying to help us out. And then sometimes, like I said, sometimes that's good. Maybe you're like, hey, I really need to get that 20-minute session in. I know how much this body needs a detox. I know how much I just need to sweat. I really want to hit this goal. Yeah, do it. But guess what? You consciously chose to disassociate in it also. And so that's also a whole other thing. Back to the yes and. It's like I didn't just go into the sauna, pull up my phone, not really thinking about why, yeah, I'm just uncomfortable. That's why I'm doing it, But no, like I'm like, hey, I know I'm gonna be uncomfortable. Hey, I know I need to utilize this to help me get through this. I'm consciously choosing to utilize this to help me make this experience easier. Or hey, I'm intentionally making sure that I have a buddy with me. That's my favorite. I mean, social time in the sauna is all I love it.
The best.
But it's literally back to the kind of the whole premise of what I was trying to say is like it creates that consciousness, that awareness, and that's what I think sauna and ice bath can do for people, because it's just showing you that hey, this is the choice that I'm making to help this other aspect. And, hopefully, you're also conscious of like, hey, maybe I don't need an install time, or maybe, yeah, okay, I'm going to try to do this, but maybe I'm able to get sauna for 10 minutes and I'm able to just expand. But one thing that I got to is like, hey, I was able to connect with my breath more. Maybe I was able to connect with myself more and feel into that uncomfortability and find out what that is for me. And the other really cool part is there's a part in your brain that actually grows. So I don't have it in front of me right now to give you like the actual things, but like people can go look this up after. So when we do difficult, hard things, there's a part in our brain that actually grows and expands. So you go and do that and you go try to the sauna, you're not only you're gonna be able to get all the physiological benefits that you normally get from sauna, you're also gonna be able to get your brain to expand a little bit and to get almost, more grit, basically just from doing something uncomfortable that is very hard for me. And so like there's that other aspect too, like, and I always give those, it's kind of like little cookies, little wins. Like it's just really the angle that you're looking at it and the consciousness of the choice, I think is the conclusion to that. Like, cause I'm not going to say like, David, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You're not doing it wrong. You're doing what you need. You're intuitively doing what you need to accomplish your goal. Like, heck yeah, man. Like that's the other aspect. Like some people are like so down on themselves from like, we'll go back to drinking as an example. Like as much as drinking can be bad, but it's like, why is that person drinking? What's causing them to need this to drink? Is it just the social aspect? Is it just this? Or is it like, hey, they have a really rough family life, or they have whatever's going on, or maybe work's just not going well, or anything like that. But are we actually slowing down to do that? Like it's like, hey, I'm not against you drinking, like, but do you know why you're drinking? At least are you going to consciousness, like owning. And I'm gonna shout out to Jocko, but like extreme ownership. It's like you're owning your choices, but it's also allowing you to be conscious enough to own your choices.
It's a weird thing to me, because I was talking with a friend about it who also uses the sauna, and we'll get off this in a minute, but you guys, if you've been listening for any amount of episodes, this is just how it goes. It's easy for me to leave my phone here and take the dog for a 30-minute walk and not get anxious or anything. In fact, it's a nice break. I love it. It's also, and I'm not trying to brag here, I'm just stating facts about things I observe about my own life.
I didn't think it was brag. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Thank you. It's also easy for me to sit in silence for 20 to 25 minutes, and it's not a nap. And I don't call it meditation either, because I'm not necessarily doing that. But for me, sometimes on my lunch breaks, I will leave the phone and all the computers out here. I'll get the dog, we'll go in the room, shut the door. It's easy for me to just lay down on the bed and just sort of think and see where my thoughts go. And what I was talking to my friend about, I was like, why is it when you add in this element of heat that all of a sudden, for the life of me, I can last maybe like 5 to 8 minutes tops before I'm just going nuts. And I'm like, I need, quote unquote, need my phone. And he was like, he sort of, for better or for worse, was like, I'm the same way, dude. Like, I'm doing whatever I need to do to get through that 20 minutes. But after listening to what you just said, it almost makes me think, if right now my cap without getting my phone is 8 minutes, maybe instead of going for 25, maybe for a week or two, what I'll do is shoot for like 12 minutes and not even bring in the phone with me. So then I'm working not only the muscle of the heat aspect, but also letting myself go through this pain or the heat, while also getting away from my phone.
Let's rephrase it. Let's uncomfortability versus finding words matter.
They do.
And so that's why caution is like it's not. I don't want to use the word pain. I guess I usually generally use
uncomfortability is better for this situation.
Yeah, I'm always, even I don't necessarily know if that's the right word. I'm always playing with words.
We could just call it what it is: heat. Learning to deal with heat
because
without distraction.
it is uncomfortable. Like I'm not gonna say sauna is easy. Like it's not easy. Otherwise, it would be more and more people sauna, and we'd have a culture in the United States that everybody saunas.
Right.
But like, I think that the fact that you're owning the uncomfortability, you're trying to like, and you're aware of it. Like, here's the other thing too. When you step out of the sauna, you're still getting sauna benefits for a little while, especially in an infrared. Just because of how the heat actually heats you up. And so like you stepping out 12 minutes in, and like sometimes I'll go 12 minutes in and I'll just, depending on like your place, but like I'll jump in the shower real fast, a cool shower, not like, and just a cold shower. And then I'll go back in, or yeah, you go and grab your phone after those 12 minutes. And then you go back, like, right, I'm going to try to do another 5 with the phone. Like, it's like, it's still finding ways to cope to get your goal, to get your goal accomplishment. You're just, you're changing it up a little bit.
I like that. Do you know is there any advantage, disadvantage, or neutral to taking a cold shower as soon as you step out? Because that's one thing I've been doing, just because I'll be honest with you, I just do it because it feels good. You're super, super hot, so you run over to the shower, you turn on as cold as you can, and it just feels so good to have that water hit you. Do you know if I'm helping or taking away any of the benefits from the sauna by chance?
Yes, Ed.
Yes, every single answer today.
So the science shows that you're not supposed to shower afterwards because it wants your body to keep being hot. So then your body has to work to cool itself. And so when your body is working to cool itself, it is utilizing energy, which then helps with like fat loss, probably even helping with, I'm guessing something more like the mitochondria cellular is happening. Like I apologize, I'm butchering the words right now, but it's basically there's reactions that are happening within your body to cool down your body. And so by you going into the cold shower, you're stunting that a little bit, or you're aiding that, which then your body isn't having to work as hard. So it's like, like maybe you are under a lot of stress and you're like just having a hard time, and like, hey, you accomplished that and that's your saving grace. Go flip and turn the cold shower on. You know what I mean? Like that's going to actually help your body, because then your cortisol levels are going to be less high because your body's literally under less stress.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to work so hard. Because our bodies want to go back to homeostasis. It wants to go back to harmony or balance. Like it wants to feel okay. Like, like your body doesn't run around like, I just want to make David sick today. You know?
Right.
So like that. Now, the other aspect too, what you're getting from the cold shower, if you're able to be in that cold shower for 30 seconds, even if it's, I think most cold showers can definitely be under 58 degrees, you're still getting the mental benefits. So one of the things that's really cool, especially if you can get it on like the back of your neck, head, which you probably are with being in the shower, you're getting those dopamine benefits. You're getting the serotonin. So it's just like the ice bath. You're actually able to get a lot of those mental boost for that. Now, it does not help you obviously as much with like the inflammation aspect. That's one reason why I do it. So like when I sauna, like in an ideal state for me, it's like I'll go lift. Maybe if I'm really feeling spicy, I'll sauna for a little bit, warm up, go lift, or ice bath before even. Sorry, I'm changing up on you guys. I'll make it a little simpler. So let's say, I'll ice bath, I'll go work out, and then I'll sauna. And then I'll get out of that sauna, and maybe I want to make those sessions longer sessions. Maybe I want to sauna for an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, but then I'll go put a cold shower. And the reason I use a cold shower versus an ice bath is because I don't want to mess up my hypertrophy from the lift I just had. Mm-hmm. So when you go, most people already know this already, but I'll just kind of repeat it. Basically, if you go lift and then you go ice bath afterwards, you're flushing all the good inflammation out of your body. And so then it's actually going to stunt your muscle growth, which is one reason a lot of people go to the gym is for gains. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to stunt your gains. Now, potentially, could I be stunting my gains a little bit by getting the cold shower? Yeah, maybe. But I usually being pretty conscious about trying to just focus most of the direct cold on the back of my neck, on my head to cool that, because it's usually the most uncomfortable part for me in a sauna is my my face, my head getting too hot, too warm. And so that's usually the best. So I go ice bath in the beginning, do that 2.5, 3 minutes. Sometimes I even do less ice bath time before the ice bath because I want it to be like a pre-workout. I don't want it to chill my body so much that I'm having a difficulty warming up in the workout. Now, back to the other thing. So how we kind of talked about the sauna, it's the same thing with the ice bath. So like a lot of times with the ice bath, somebody will get out of the ice bath and they'll go straight into the sauna. You're doing the same thing. Your body doesn't have to work as hard, so it's not going to create as much stress. It's not going to burn as much fat. It's not going to do, it's not going to use up as much energy if you go from this ice bath to the sauna because you're having an aid to warm you up. Just like, getting out of the sauna to cool you down. So
I'm laughing for a few reasons, but one of them is because when I was going through your Instagram, this was the first time I was getting ready for an interview, and you had me damn near in tears because right before I moved to Austin, Texas, my gym out in California, I always liked them because I felt like they were on top of trends, and they installed a cold plunge. I was like, yes, like our membership dues aren't going up. We have free access to this thing. I don't even care if it's dirty, how they regulate it. I'm just happy I have unlimited access to one of these.
Yeah.
And there's about a 3-month period where about 2 to 3 workouts every week I'd work out and then get in that thing. So when I read your post about how that could potentially not, hinder like everything you just accomplished in your workout, I was so sad. It's like, God damn it.
Because it feels so good because you get hot, you get the pump and everything. Well, and it makes sense why it feels so good also is because it is moving all that good inflammation out of your muscles, all that pump out of the muscles into your internal organs and then flushing it back out. Now, it means that it's basically also stunting the recovery process. So what's really cool about an ice bath is if you're an athlete or you just have to perform for whatever reason, and let's say you get an injury, but it's an injury that you can still operate with, it means you can still compete with. You can utilize an ice bath to remove that inflammation, to reduce the swelling, to slow the recovery process. Then you wrap it up with a bandage, you put on some kind of wrap to keep it from getting re-inflamed, to keep the blood from basically pooling there, and then you can go compete. I'm not saying like I advise this, but that's something that they do at the highest levels is they'll utilize cold to basically kind of numb and slow down the swelling so that way they can keep performing. That also means that it's slowing down the recovery process of the joint. Like inflammation isn't bad in itself. Too much, obviously, like anything, is not good. But inflammation is bringing the nutrients in the blood to then help aid repair the issue that is going on in your body, the damage.
I hope you didn't take offense to my comment about your Instagram, by the way.
Oh, no,
I have
no,
a
no,
very
no.
dry sense of humor.
No,
So
no,
as you were answering, I was like, I hope he doesn't think I'm like brought him over here to insult him today.
No. I don't know. No, I really, like, for me, one of the things that I really was excited about is having somebody kind of put a lens on it. Like, kind of like indirectly, like, it's like, you are calling me out in a good way. Like, it's like, I think that you probably will, but it's like, there's so many trolls out on the internet. It's like, they just post and or comment or do whatever. And there's like, and with no no ownership, they just put things out there and just like, we don't care what the consequences, whatever. Like, yeah, everybody can make their own choices and their own deductions and everything like that. But it's like, I feel like a society all impact each other, all have a thing that like, for example, it's like somebody cuts you off, that upsets you. Somebody in the grocery store, you drop a box and they pick it up for you and they hand it back to you or put it in your cart for you. Like, those little things like that, they add up through your day, through your week, through your month, through your year. And I feel like with like the internet and the digital way, like, it's like people can just like kind of like toss a stink bomb and be like, screw you. And just kind of like, run off. And so I think that, being able to be here on you and talk about some of my posts and talking about some of the things also gives me a platform to get more detail. Like, I'd be able to talk about more of like, hey, what did I mean here? Or, what was I trying to say? Or owning the fact that like, I didn't quite like capture that the way I wanted to capture that. So no, I appreciate you bringing it up or talking about it.
Of course. I just remember, how sometimes you have a conversation, it sticks with you forever. At an old job when I used to work for a gym, this was probably like 17 years ago or something, but my boss at the time, her name was Jen, and she said that one of the only things she wanted me to work on was just my sense of humor, because sometimes I say things to members, and since they don't know me at all, they might take it seriously, and then I have just insulted them, even though I was trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
But now we have this disgruntled member on our hand, due to no fault of mine. I was just trying to be kind, and then like 3 hours later, I did it. I said something very dryly to someone, and he like gave me a look, and she was like, "He's just kidding. That's a sense of humor." And the guy was like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, you see, people don't know." So now I just, if I sense that it's happening, I try to bring it up. But anyways, to go back to the conversation. So let's say there is someone listening who is working out on a regular basis. They do have access to a cold plunge, and they also enjoy saunaing. Is there like an ideal time of day that they would do each of those activities? And my guess is going to be it's probably cold in the morning, and then whenever you go work out, do the sauna right afterwards.
Yeah, and that basically hit it on the head. And the reason is behind that is because the level of like, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, it's going to get you charged up. It's going to get you electrified. That's why, you hear so many people are like, my morning routine's got that cold plunge first thing in the morning, because it really, it wakes you up. Like there's nothing like it getting in a cold shower or an ice bath first thing in the morning. I've done it myself multiple times. The earlier sometimes feels like the Grim Reaper just holding you, but it's like a warm embrace from the Grim Reaper. It's like, who wants that at 6 a.m? It definitely gets you up though, and it wakes you, and there's a lot of really good benefits. And then you go work out whenever you do that. Well, the cool thing, you worked out, now you're saunaed. Well, the cool thing about sauna is sauna actually helps your body cool down. So like us going in the sauna causes our body to literally like, hey, I gotta sweat, I gotta cool down. And so it creates that response. And so then even when you get out of the sauna, your body's actually working to drop your core temperature, which then makes it easier to sleep. That's why it's better for us to try to, turn down our thermostat at night before we go to bed, because that's going to help you feel a little bit cooler to just, help you close the eyes a little easier.
We're back.
Awesome.
So I'm going to change subjects without
please.
changing subjects. Let me think for a second about how I want to word this. So you were talking a little bit earlier about the dopamine desert, and I'm wondering if you have any thoughts around, first off, do you have many teens clients, or let me rephrase this, through working out at 10th Planet or on it or through your job, do you have many interactions with people between the ages of, let's say, like 14 and 19 right now?
A little bit, very little, but I have a few. Like we actually have this amazing MMA athlete named Austin Hines. He's gonna love that I shot him out, but we call him the baby goat, and he's been training for a very, very long time, and watching him navigate today is really fascinating because he is surrounded by adults and professionals most of his day because he's trying to become the world's best, MMA fighter. And I believe he's on that way to do that. And watching him, interact with, energy drinks and having to show up in, like I said, in an adult environment when he's still a kid. And then, and now, he's got wonderful parents that, that are, I got him a truck so we can move around and different stuff. And so, yeah, I have a small window to look into, but I have a little bit of reference. And then I do have two young boys that are 9 and 11. And so that also kind of gives me a little bit of insight as they're going towards that teenage year a little bit, and how they interact with technology.
Okay, perfect. So that's great. First off, Austin sounds like someone very interesting to talk to.
Oh,
I might need an introduction at some point.
He would be hilarious. That kid is, he's hilarious. Like he's just so open and free and being himself and trying to figure out how to navigate this world while just being a character. He's just so authentic, and I think that's really awesome to see for such a young kid. That's
awesome. So here is my question. It's going to be a half question.
Yeah.
I have a thought that I've been mulling over with some of my guests, and the thought is it's about half baked. It's about half finished at the moment.
It's all right.
So I work out at a gym where there is it's basically a bunch of teens and their parents and me. It's a very weird demographic. But in the gym, I'm getting a growing reputation with these teens, especially most of the guys in there, is the podcast dude. It was a really cool, unexpected thing that I wasn't going to think would ever happen. I didn't try to happen. It just sort of happened. So now I have like mini conversations with anywhere from like 8 to 12 teens almost every time I work out. I love these kids, and I want the best for them, which is why I'm thinking about the question I'm I'm about to ask you. In regards to what you said about the dopamine desert, these kids can be as young as 14 years old, and they're taking up to 500 milligrams of pre-workout before they start their lift. And I'm wondering, based off, you bring a unique knowledge that I haven't had on the podcast yet. From your knowledge, your observations, and what you bring to the table, do you have any thoughts about not the long-term effects from like a health perspective, like what is this doing to their organs, or more from the dopamine desert perspective? Are they somehow going to make it hard for themselves to find like satisfaction, or even like when they're 20, 21, 22, and maybe they're having their first car crash, their first breakup with a significant other? Are they almost like maybe rewiring themselves for the worse by taking these huge hits of caffeine it's not even like throughout the day, right? It's in like a 3-minute period where they're just chugging this thing and then heading into workout. Do you think there could be some sort of not ideal ripple effect that they're doing to themselves?
You're gonna laugh at this, but it's like I feel like it's
yes
a yes and. Yeah. And well, because
stop it, Kai. Stop it.
Well, it's because I can think about it from my opinion and my perspective of just my own journey in fitness and taking pre-workout throughout my journey and not taking pre-workout and taking pre-workout. Currently still on pre-workout right now, but have been off of it before in the past. The positive is they're going to go work out.
Agreed.
Like, I'm one of those people that, I made kind of the deal with the devil, so to speak, that chose to, if I'm going to get addicted to anything, it's going to be working out. It's going to be fitness. It's going to be, lifting. It's going to be jiu-jitsu. It's going to be martial arts. I'm like, if I'm going to break down and, sort of like to do not necessarily bad things, but, it's like if I'm going to damage something, it's like I'm willing to damage my body in the pursuit of physical fitness, and that has caused a whole different variety of things. And so I think the fact that they're taking pre-workout and they're going to work out, they're getting their frustration or whatever their drive is, their gains, their goals, and other stuff like that, I think is awesome. I think that that is, in a way, is utilizing dopamine for good, utilizing caffeine for good. It's like, oh, hey, I take this and I go do something productive, like, improving my body or getting out my frustration or, whatever reason they're working out for. And, getting closer to my athletic goals. At the same time, we keep doing that. Yeah, we're gonna get burnt out, like whether we want to or not. And the thing is it may not be tomorrow. Like while we're young, there's plenty of times where I, abuse the crap out of my body. Where there was times where it's like I would close the bar at 3 a.m. I'd be back up at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in the morning, heading to a football field to go play full contact flag football. Running off of energy drinks and coffee and everything else, literally, I went to bed maybe at 4 a.m, got back up and I was already doing, something else. Well, that catches up with you. And, that was in my, mid 20s. So let's, go back to your age group of like, I could potentially, they could start burning out at their mid 20s because they're already, not necessarily, I don't want to say abusing because I don't know each individual, but it's like, doing that level is going to have consequences because we're not meant to take that 500 milligrams of caffeine all the time. And also, like, what is that going to do? I know you said not to really go into this, but I'm curious about it. Of like, what is that going to do to their body? Like, is their body going to adapt and then all of a sudden need 1,000 milligrams of caffeine to function? And like, what is that going to do to them? When they do potentially need coffee or whatever, need coffee, there's always quotes of that, but back to the essay, and it's like, I really do think that there's danger with that, as the fact of like, okay, they take it and that was great for their workout, right? But what after the workout? Because it generally it's not the workout. Like you got the boost for your workout, but generally there's still lingering effects. So does that mean then they're staying up later? Are they getting less sleep? And then that really affects a lot of stuff. If you go look in a lot of the sleep studies, like people that are staying awake, I think it's ridiculous because I stay up late. But if like you're staying after like 10 p.m. at night, you're starting to lose longevity. Like you're starting to drastically affect your body and your performance even the next day, if not 5 years from now. And it's wild. And so like, is that kid then going to be wired where they're staying up till 11 midnight because they had that 500 milligrams of caffeine and that is still coursing through them even a little bit. And they weren't able to, maybe they weren't able to, get it all out through the workout or something. At the same time, maybe that's, but maybe that's what's helping them perform. Like it's kind of like at the yes and of like, hey, I'm taking that 500. It's allowed me to go into the gym. It's allowing me to then maybe do, let's say they have an after school sport, then they go, maybe then they have homework or, they have something that their parents, maybe they need to clean the house or something, chores, whatever. Maybe that, that one little catalyst of events is what allows them to continue to thrive to then reach, whatever goals that they're trying to accomplish in this life.
Yeah.
And so it's the whole thing, back to the whole yes and is just like how conscious of we are we aware of whatever the trickle effects, and that'd be like, so using Austin as an example, like I definitely have seen him when I can tell when he's on certain levels of caffeine for sure. And it's honestly, it's kind of adorable, but it's like, he's more pestering. He's maybe talking more. Maybe he can't focus as much.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's just kind of literally like bouncing off the walls. And our poor coach that, runs our strength and conditioning where I see him the most, is like, trying to reel him in, like, hey, focus on this, this, don't distract other people. Hey, we're not here by ourselves. There's other people working out, but it's also hard to see, like I said, the things that are going to happen long term, because it's like when we're young, man, we can endure so much. I mean, that's the one thing that like, shout out human body. Like we endure a lot when we're young. It's absolutely incredible the things that we can eat and do and everything else, and like adapt from and overcome and thrive into adulthood. And then we hit adulthood and we're like, it's like sometimes hitting a wall because of some of the things that we did in our youth and we didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a long-winded yes, and I think, I think it's at the same time, they're going to be able to get sometimes to their goals. Like, I mean, shoot, when I'm on, pre-workout, I can get you get a really good pump, you get excited,
Yep.
The music's going,
Yep.
you're flowing, you get in that zone. And I mean, and there's plenty of data to show that, hey, your cognitive performance and your reaction time and everything else is better on caffeine. So like any competitors out there that if, when you're competing, even, and I don't know what dosage, but it's like, I bet, even just a small little dosage, is probably enough to be able to get some of those benefits. But, I'd have to look up what that, milligrams or whatever is.
Yeah. A caveat I should have said when I asked the question, but then you said it for me, so I'm grateful that you did, is I take pre-workout. So I'm not necessarily asking these questions because I'm against it or because I want you to stop. It's more of here's the observation, is when I was a kid, the internet didn't exist. Like, just think about that for a second, right? Is I had no instant messaging, no cell phone, social media wasn't a thing. So I think my more process is, okay, guys who are in the gym, all the guys at who might be listening to this, I'm 20 years older than you and grew up dramatically different. So my thought process when I'm asking these questions is, as we're navigating this changing landscape together, how can we set you guys up so that you're successful in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, so on and so forth. And I just want all you young men to have really crazy successful lives. And so
Amen.
I just want us to be thinking about it. Even if we don't come to a conclusion, if you're 14 and you are taking 500 milligrams of caffeine, I'm not insulting you or trying to get you to click off. I just want you to be asking yourself, like, how is this going to be helping me and a tool for me when 10 years from now? And that's what I'm getting at.
Well, and there's those days that you feel great, and
you do,
and that's even off the pre-workout. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's days where it's like, hey, if you feel great and you don't need that pre-workout or you don't need that pick me up, then try to do it without. At the same time, or hey, guess what? Like, there's times where we do need to slow down. There's deload weeks. There's times where, hey, maybe we shouldn't push enough. And every time you go to the gym and you're pounding that 500, and then like you're getting a great workout, like some point that may not work out. And so at least I would rather you learn about it not working out or never ever experience it not working out at a younger time than basically at an older age. Because I mean, I bet me and David could probably, go off of like his uncomfortable experiences with pre-workout supplements.
So I'll be 100% honest why I'm not taking them right now is because There's one morning last November where I woke up and I woke up feeling amazing. And so I didn't have my morning coffee, even though it was already brewed. I just turned it off. I was like, let's see what happens. And then I didn't take my pre, and I had a great workout. And so I thought, let's just see how long we can go with this for. The coffee came back 3 or 4 days later because I started literally getting the withdrawals from the no caffeine. So the coffee I reintroduced back pretty quickly. The pre-workout I didn't. Fast forward to last March, and there is one day where I was just dragging ass. Can't attribute why.
Yeah.
I was just not feeling it. I really wanted to have a good workout.
Yeah.
And so I went to the gym. I brought a pre-workout. I drank half of it because it was 250 milligrams. I thought, I haven't been drunk in this stuff in 6 months. So let's ease into this thing. So I drank half the bottle, and I got, I guess, what you could call an anxiety attack. Or of some sort.
Yeah, just pumped so much.
I threw up some 100-pound dumbbells on chest press. I was very proud of myself. Halfway through, I ended up stopping, even though I had a few more reps in me, set them down, and then just doing a couple laps throughout the gym because I felt my heart start pumping faster. I started sweating, and I was chugging my water, and I was having this insane conversation in my head of, am I about to like ask the staff to just watch me have the defibrillator ready and be ready to call 911? So I scared myself so bad, I haven't taken pre-workout since. And I think I'm like off for life after that. So... but to your point, I'm also 36, so my body has taken a lot more of a beating than these dudes are who we've been talking about who are 14, 18, 22.
Exactly. Yeah. I think anybody probably over 30 has probably had that experience at one point now. Because yeah, I could definitely relate. You're just like, what is going on? That's just honestly changed to the type for me. Not saying to do this, but it's changed to the type of pre-workout that I'm using, making sure to really vet the ingredients, see how they interact with me, and are they more natural than others, kind of thing. One of the things also, L-theanine has been really a big for me to help jittering and everything else. So if you do take caffeine, it also is shown to help with like a mood stabilizing. Is L-theanine. I think I'm pronouncing that right. That seems to, I haven't delved into the caffeine aspect, but I can definitely state in terms of like mood stabilization and not using caffeine or even helping with like caffeine withdrawals, that seems to really balance out. And that's something you can just, get from Amazon or wherever, supplement store.
Yeah. Let's talk about you for a few minutes.
Sure.
Can you give us some context as to who this man is that's sitting across from me? When you think on your past, if there is, I'm sure there's several critical moments, but if there's one moment that you feel sort of drove you to being the founder of Big Wave Industries in Austin, Texas, what's that piece of context that we need to have?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's see. I moved to Austin 4 or 5 years ago for a tech company. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I really wanted to work for a tech company, wanted to increase my salary, was all excited for that. And so I continued to climb over the years in Austin to working for a Fortune 250. And at that Fortune 250, I started working 12, 15-hour days. And I was like, this is not what I want. Like, this is pulling me further away from the freedom and independence I want to me being more stuck in a chair. And I was like, so I had to make a change. I was like, I have to do something. I have to stop building other stuff for other people. Not completely, but I want to build something for myself that I can, share with others, or at least just have more stability, some kind of anchor, I guess I can call it. And so that was part of it. The other part was I wanted to help my community. I'm really, to my own detriment sometimes, I'm very passionate about trying to help others. And I knew that creating a company like Big Wave Industries, I would be able to do that because I knew how much relief and growth that I was able to get just from sauna and ice bath. And so basically I quit my job of my Fortune 250 after 3-4 months. And I launched this company based off of some passions of the fact that I wanted, originally it started off I just wanted something to do with a sauna trailer. I really wanted a truck and a sauna trailer, and I still haven't achieved that yet, which is kind of funny. Just how it just morphed and shaped, but it kind of just was a part of hey, I want to help people. Hey, I'm not happy selling my soul to, basically, I felt like at the time, I mean, to a computer, because I was just in front of a computer 12, 15 hours a day. And I wanted to create a platform to grow in another direction. As like, I spent, I had my first IT certificate when I was in like middle school, freshman year of high school. And so I've been very, very deep dived in technology. And so it was like, I felt like I was really ignoring the other side of me, which is like my outdoorsy nature side, kind of hippie tree hugger side of me. And so I was like, I need to do something to build off of that, to be able to bring kind of the balance of the harmony of it, because ice bath and sauna is actually a lot more technical than people think about. If you really get into the nitty gritty of all the different electrical specs and all the different stuff and all the technologies that it takes to literally create heat and cold, like it's very simple, simple elements, but it's like the technology that comes into it is really cool and really fascinating. And so I was able to, oh, it sounds like some thunder. Oh, it's raining.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Sorry, audience. When we started, it was a beautiful sunny day.
I was like, I didn't realize it was going to be raining like
I didn't take my headphones off. I was like, what the heck is that? Sorry, Thad. You're okay, brother. Come hang out with us.
There he goes. He settled a little bit. But, it was a way for me to then bridge another part of myself while utilizing some of the years of effort that I've poured into understanding technology, while being able to help people. That's kind of the sum of like, what started it. And that was kind of really a big pivotal change. Since that time, it's been a roller coaster, to be honest. It's been a roller coaster in good things and hard things. It's like, I was able to get this 6-month pop-up over in a jiu-jitsu gym. And within the first month of me getting in the jiu-jitsu gym, I got injured. I ended up rupturing my pec major, basically off my body, having to then get surgery in a short period of time. Because just FYI, if you ever tear anything, you want to get surgery as quickly as possible, so that way it heals better and faster, and you don't lose basically muscle mass. And so I was able to get it attached fairly quickly, but I was in a lot of pain, probably the worst pain I've ever been, because, they had to reattach it literally to my bone. And so that's still, I think I'm still processing that, audience, of like just going through a surgery like that for the first time. And while also I literally just launched my first like brick and mortar aspect of my company, and that really rocked me. I wasn't able to show up to my customers as well. My partner, my girlfriend, she had to carry a lot more things on her shoulders because of it. And, it's really hard to hit a ground running when you're kind of the face of the company. Because some of my stuff for my organization is me showing up on the mats, me showing up in jiu-jitsu, me showing up in these jiu-jitsu gyms, and presenting myself, and, talking about my stuff, and showing kind of the results as well as promoting it. And a lot of that couldn't happen when you're injured. And so like the start of my own company, I literally got smacked right into the ground. Like, I mean, it was that, that impactful to me. And that's just physically that, on top of 30,000 plus, financial, just to get surgery and everything, I'm still financially recovering from that. And I'm still now, I was telling you earlier, like dealing with new health issues from this one injury. Like it stems because, it's like people think they're like, oh yeah, whatever. But it's like, a lot of people don't know the backstory of like, you get a surgery, you get some kind of impact. It's like, it affects you in so many ways that I never expected to affect my legs. I never expected to affect my lungs, or just basically my body being under so much stress that it wasn't able to then heal these other areas that maybe like those normal injuries or normal things would have been fine. But because you're trying to, juggle all that stuff inside yourself, and here's the other thing, you can't see it. Like you have an injury inside your body, like you're injured, but it's like, it's not like a cut, or it's not visible to people. People don't see the discomfort once you take the cast off or take the sling off. It's like, it just kind of disappears. And so I kind of changed field, but like that was really, really impactful to me in a lot of different ways, because then it caused me to then focus on my business a little bit more, focus on myself more, trying to figure out, where I fit into things. It was also hard as like a man, I think, especially for your younger men viewers, like there comes to a point where it's like, you're not as invincible as you thought you were, and that, I'm still processing and healing through that of like, oh shoot, like, you know, I tear, I bleed, I rip, kind of thing. Like, I can't keep, abusing my body, so to speak, as heavily as if, I want to do stuff. Now, at the same time, I'm still trying to come back and become an MMA fighter. I'm still trying to get back in the cage. I'm trying to continue to grow and thrive in mixed martial arts, even at I'm young, but I'm still old at like 33 years old. And so like, I still have a lot of aspirations, and you're like, well, how does this play into like big wave and all this? It really does for me, because I want to live with integrity. And for me to live in integrity, to be a good coach, I need to experience some of these things that the athletes are going to experience. Like for me to be able to mentor somebody on how to recover, on how to breathe, and how to do this stuff, like I need to have experience in these grappling competitions, in this cage stuff. Like I don't feel authentic unless I'm continuing to try to strive and go as far as I can in my mixed martial arts journey in the competition scene, because that's going to literally give me the data to be able to then show up for others, but as well as like to show up for myself and have the accolades of like, hey, this is like, not only do I have like the science and the knowledge and the technique, it's like, but I can back it because I was able to use it here. And so that's been kind of a whirlwind of things. And I apologize. I kind of lost my train of thought off the original question, but I was just trying to share a little bit of, I guess, myself and some of the things that I've gone through in the last couple of years here in Austin that are kind of, I think closer to home.
Yeah. When you came to Austin, did you know that you were going to get involved in MMA, or were you already involved? Let me rephrase that. At any point, when did you get involved in MMA, and were you expecting that, or was it sort of a curveball for you?
No, I was expecting it. So when I came into Austin, I knew I was going to 10th Planet Austin. Like I knew that from the get-go. Like I intentionally put my apartment to be close to it. Like I think some people realize this, but it's like I made sacrifices off the get-go. I made sure I was 10 minutes from the gym. The first day that I showed up, I talked to Gabe Tuttle, who's the head coach there, and I said, hey, I want to do MMA. And so he introduced me to the MMA coach of the time and said, hey, this is the guy, blah, blah, blah. So like, and of course, like everybody goes in there, they're like, oh yeah, everybody says they want to do MMA. Like it's kind of like the thing, they have plenty of people that kind of wash out. It's I don't know what the success rate of actually people that actually make it to some of their goals, but a lot of people wash out. And I've been training MMA and off and on for probably since I've been here 3-4 years. My focus before I got here was in striking, or excuse me, not in striking, was in jiu-jitsu. I'd done a very traditional jiu-jitsu, so it was like in the gi, learning up in Wyoming and like a little bit in Denver and stuff like that. And so I came down here with a just jiu-jitsu background, basically. So like, which is obviously just a section of mixed martial arts. Right. And then, but for some reason, I wish I could remember what drove me to, like say, hey, hey Gabe, I want to do this MMA stuff. I think it's just because I like to fight. Like I love to push myself. I love to test myself. I'm a strong believer of like the most violent men are the most peaceful men. Like, it's like, I'm one of those guys that's like, I can take a lot of shit and I will, I won't escalate the situation, but if I need to escalate the situation, I'm going to do my damn best to finish it. And so that's just kind of how I've been. And I'm like, okay, if I have that mindset, it's like, then I need to test it. Back to the integrity piece of just like, okay, if like, you want to be good, how good are you? And the only way to show that is to basically kind of almost, it's do it out in public. Like it's kind of like it's like posting on social media and then owning it. It's like okay, hey, like you say you're bad, you say you've cut weight, you've practiced, you've been developing, you're ready to go fight in front of an audience, and in MMA, especially following the journey of my teammates, it is the most beautiful high and the most depressing high, or like depressing low, or however you want to say it, like I've ever seen. And seeing that, even not my teammates, just witnessing that firsthand of just like, you see these people that have sacrificed so much, whether that's financially, whether that's physically, whether that's relationships, and they lose. And then watching them and build themselves back up, watching them lean on the community, watching them go from defeat to then, winning. And sometimes obviously that doesn't always go that way. But I'm a strong believer that, in the end you're going to win, even if it's the win you weren't looking for. But then at the other end, it's like watching these guys win and succeed for all the sacrifices and stuff. And like, it's just beautiful. Like, it's just like, I can't get enough. I know it's probably just, maybe a little bit of me being a drama queen, but it's just like these guys, did sacrifice all those things, and they did prove that they were the best, and that all these things that they did, and the choices they made, and the sacrifices, and the diet, and the working out, and the lifting, and the training, and the coaching, and all the things that they had to do to get to that point worked. But that's also the cool thing about MMA. You could do all those things right and it still not work. Like, I've seen guys do everything correctly and still lose. And you're like, what? Like, how does that work? Like, it's just, but that's to me, that's what I'm drawn to. You're like, what? Like, what? Like, it's the one chance to really like legally, like, just go all out, man. Like, and you don't know if you're going to get caught with that right hook and that's going to drop you and it's over. Or maybe you get caught with that right hook and you come back and you just win all the rest of the rounds and you make sure that guy never throws that right hook again at you. It's just really cool. I think it's that, like, presence, consciousness, realness. Like, for me, there's a spirituality to it. It's not just violence.
Where do you think this? Why? You're very passionate about this.
Yeah.
Why do you like fighting so much?
Because I like defending people. I like protecting people. It goes back to my kindness is, yes. So like the one, like, I don't want to say selfish, but more like self-centered side of it is like, who doesn't want to be a bad motherfucker? Like,
that's true.
Like, I mean, that's awesome. But then at the same time, it's like, I prove to my community, to myself, to others that, hey, I can stand up and fight for you. I can defend you. And so, like, it's like, I don't just learn how to strike. Like, I've practiced pistols, like I practice knife stuff. Like, it's like, it's kind of like, it's like a modern hero in a way. It's like, I didn't want to just be some, nerdy tech guy. I wanted to be somebody that could be multidimensional, could be well-rounded, to be somebody that, yeah, I make decent money, but also I can, I throw it down, like, it's just like, to me, that was maybe, I think that's what, for me, my code, my morals, my integrity, my, it's like my crest, so to speak. Like, that's part of what it is for me to be a man. And if I like share a little bit more of, like, it's like, I had my father in and out of my life when my parents got divorced in 4th grade. And so then I had to learn from that point on really what it was to be a man, because I didn't really have a lot of examples, especially because I lived in Alaska for 7 years and there was not a lot of people like, that's a whole other stories, but it's like, there's less interactions with people there. And so then I had to find my different role models. I had to find my different people, that motivated me and take different pieces of them to make me. Like, I didn't want to like just copy somebody, but I'm like, hey, I like that part of them. Like I said earlier with Bruce Lee, like, be like water. Like, I think that's really awesome. Like, flowing and the aspect, and what does that actually mean? What did it mean to him? And just looking at that aspect, or Jocko, extreme, ownership, or you got Goggins, where it's like he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, like, but it's like also analyzing like the whys behind that, but just taking all these different things from all these different men and basically making it up my own. Obviously, like, I still take some really awesome things that I've learned from my father, but that's kind of, in one instance, it's kind of made me into the man that I am right now.
When you were going through that process of finding people to look up to, was there anyone that in hindsight was bad for you? And you don't have to say his name, and it might not even be a real person. It might be like some
Yeah. I understand
character
exactly.
in a movie,
Yeah.
But in hindsight, was there any negative influences that you accidentally got drawn towards?
For sure. And actually, I can give a little bit into this one. One of the ones was like, the playboys, all the men that like, especially when I'm a young man, I was like, oh, I just, want all the girls,
Yeah.
And so I think that's one aspect that, I look back that probably wasn't the best influence on me, of just like trying to be, that suave playboy, and not really caring about, other individuals or as women as way I should, or different things, having to adjust it and learn that, like, hey, that's not really how I want to operate in the world. That still exists. There's plenty of the pickup artists, and different stuff. Like I'm kind of the opposite, where I had the internet at a very, very young age. But I had fast internet. So I went from dial up to DSL. And I know a lot of people aren't going to know, but basically, it's like you went from, basically, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's like from drips to a stream. And with that stream, I was able to access everything and anything. For a while, at one point in my younger, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and then another time I wanted to be a video game designer, and then eventually that video game designer stuff just got into like technology, and then working for at one point I wanted to work for a gaming company doing technology things, and so it all spiraled. But like, I could access all the audiobooks that I needed, or all the manuals. Like, Pirate Bay was very big back then and not as regulated, and so you could get movies, CDs, literature, university books. Like, you could get anything and everything off the internet, and then learn from that, including the bad things of, like, well, not necessarily bad, but like how to pick up women, like, but not in a like that was on the internet. But like, that's especially when you live in Alaska, like, you don't have reference for how this actually works in society, or how, like, and you're also like, for me, it's like I was young, so it's like I didn't have all of the context, you know what I mean? Like, of how the world operated. Maybe I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're societal stunted in a way, because like you're not in society in some places of Alaska, because I lived very remote, and so like I had interactions obviously when I went to school or here and there during the summer and stuff, but like during the winter, you're like 9 months of like nobody's there but you and the computer, basically. Obviously I had my family, but my mom was going through a divorce. My brother kept to himself, so like a lot of that time during the time there was, especially during the winter, it's just, myself with my computer, video games, whatever, and school. Anyway, sorry. I get on tangents and then I forget where I was going.
No. A pause real quick. Did you have a hard time that you need to be out of here by?
No.
Okay. All right, cool. Why do you think you and your brother didn't spend more time together?
I think because he's kind of introverted. He's always kind of kept to himself. Like we had times where we used to go out and sledding and different things. But I think it's also we grew a part of just like different people. Like we're just starting to be different individuals too. I think because like I remember also like just going through different stages of life too. Cause like I was going into like middle school, he was still in like elementary, and then time I was going into like high school, he was just in kind of like entering middle school. Like we were just separated enough, because I think we're like 3-4 years apart, and so we're just separated enough that it was like we didn't always have like the same alignment of like passions, I think. Not that we didn't play video games together sometimes, or like I said, we went sledding or we'd go hiking here and there. A lot of times he did his own thing. One of the things that like I kind of pride myself on is like, which is the good part and bad aspect of like, I kind of taught him everything I knew in terms of as I gained that information, because I couldn't learn it and employ it, like basically embody it fast enough for it to change my life too much. But I wanted to make sure his high school life was really good. And so he became like captain of the football team. He was super popular. Like he had a lot of fun in high school. And I take a little bit of credit for that, because I did really share and tell him and talk to him about a bunch of different things of how to like operate stuff that I understood from societal. And then for a short term, I was really popular also before I moved. You always move in high school, and it's the worst, because don't recommend it. If you can try to not have your parents move during high school, yeah, go for that. Just because I went back to the food chain. I was able to literally climb myself up, kind of become kind of popular. I was varsity basketball on the yearbook team. I was all the little popular cliques.
Yeah.
And then I moved, and then as it went down, it was downhill from there. I still had a lot of other benefits, but like it was like just starting over, because nobody, you went from a school of maybe 150 K through 12.
Dang.
Yeah.
All 12 grades and 150 people.
Yeah.
There's like 4 people per grade.
Yeah, it was little. Our class had like 12 to 13, I think, in our class. So maybe it was a little bit more, but like it wasn't very much. It was not very many people. I'd have to look, but it was K through 12 was very small.
Were you all on the same campus?
We were
Like
all
physically adjacent to each other?
We were all in the same building basically.
What was that school like?
It was large enough that it had like huge hallway through it. So like the center of it is just this ginormous hallway that we used to run for basketball practice. So we'd run from basically like the K end all the way to the gym end, because that's where so like gym up here, K down here. And so we just run the whole hallway during because it's cold out, so you can't run outside. And it's better for us, it was just because it was a warm up. So it's like, who wants to do laps around the gym? It's much more fun to go like a long ass hallway. That's like, I don't know how long it is, but it was long. But it was kind of weird. The cool aspect. So like the one benefit of a school kind of like that, the impact is that was one of the first schools that was able to get completely Apple laptops. And that's also one of the reasons why I was able to be successful in technology, was that I had an Apple laptop and I had DSL connection at my house at a very young age, and I knew how to basically elevate my admin rights and hacking and all that. So I started learning how to break into computers at a very early age and how to elevate my privileges and like operate them and figure out. And I was able to get an IT certificate at such a young age. Because his entire school basically got Apple laptops. I think the superintendent ended up actually going to go work for Apple after it because of the success that he was able to get all these school districts to sign up and make obviously Apple a bunch of money. He's like, oh, well, do you want to go do sales basically for Apple and get all these other schools in the US to do this? And so it was kind of a big thing. We were already kind of an Apple shop when before this happened. Like we had a bunch of like Macintosh computers and like our computer labs, our library and stuff like that. So we were already kind of towards Apple as it was. And so I think it wasn't too far, but it was pretty impressive. We had these little like laptop carts, and then for a while in the beginning of the program, like they let kids take them home. So I literally got to take a laptop, which was good and bad, but they didn't have any antivirus. They didn't have any monitoring. They didn't, like they weren't locked down machines, like, cause back then they didn't really have all that technology or things, and what this was, getting laptops in schools, like for kids, to be able to use, like that wasn't a thing. It was awesome. But anyways,
without incriminating yourself, are you allowed to say something that you hacked? I'm just imagining like what 16-year-old Kai was hacking it. Like what
most of the time, like it was probably breaking into other people's computers to like take games. So like we would, because people would like, because that was kind of like currency a little bit, like in a way, because like to get video game, like when we were kids, like we didn't want to pay for them, so like you would have to like either pirate them or whatever else, and so then you could elevate your privileges, and then because we were all connected to a school domain, I was able to then get enough elevated privileges so then I could then literally just like get into somebody else's account and take their files off their machine. But I did it just to get games, and that's actually one of the ways I got popularity, is I found this game that nobody else really in the school knew about yet, where it was basically like this fish that kept getting bigger as it ate more fish and stuff. And it was just like a really kind of fun, silly game. But like I was able to like, make it popular, like, share it out and like, hey, everybody check this out. And like, so I just started like distributing it. And obviously the teachers didn't like that, but I think that, and then I'm trying to think, like, I can't remember. I think that's the worst I did, is I just get into other people's computers to get games. At one point, I don't think it's incriminating now, but like at one point at my new, I'm not going to say which school, but at one point I was able to get into like the grading system, and that was cool. But that was
you digital gangster.
But that was like, I don't know. I didn't get in very deep because I don't know. Like I was just playing with the directories of the website, and I was able to get into like locations. I'm like, this probably shouldn't be synced together, but I'm guessing it was related to like the parents being able to view the grades. I think like online, it was like one of those early programs where parents could see the kids' grades early, and I'm like, the way they didn't have the system structure set up right, because I was able to get deeper than just like the parents viewing the grades. I was able to get into a point where it's like, oh, I could potentially like edit or do stuff. I'm like, this isn't good. And so, but that was just like basically playing with the structure of the website, or the directory, I guess the index. There we go.
Okay. All right.
So the most exciting thing I've ever done was playing with, and this is No, I won't say this one. Never mind.
Okay, fair enough. The high school that you went to, when you moved, was that still in Alaska, or did your family leave Alaska?
So I left Alaska in my sophomore year, or December of sophomore year of high school in Alaska, and I moved to Nebraska. And so then I finished my sophomore year in Nebraska after December, basically.
Was that school bigger?
It was much bigger.
Hard to get smaller.
yeah. No, that was a much bigger school. Much obviously high school was all in one building. It was just high school, not middle school and elementary together. That was a lot of different. That part of my life, I ended up being kind of like the king of the rejects, we'll say. Like the king of the rejects and dorks and stuff. Like I was one of them. Like, and the only reason I became the king was just because I could protect them. So the football team were kind of assholes, and so I had these like groups of people that they were just like, just haze them. You know what I mean? Like just kids being kids, as much as it's not okay, of just kind of harassing them. Well, me being on the football team and also being really big, that kind of deterred them. And so then I kind of would like have my one spot. Eventually I made like a friend, and eventually we could leave campus and go like get lunch at wherever. And so that made it easier. But for a short time, it was just like we would just sit near the front, near like the locker room area, and hang out during lunch. But that would be enough of a deterrent. So then all the other kids in their little niches and stuff, nobody would come mess with it. Because anytime anything happened, I would be like, hey, what's going on? Like, I would be kind of a front, and I was just always just kind of a big dude. So then nobody kind of, nobody knows how to actually fight in high school. There was a few fights that happened, but generally that was with like, I would say, almost poorer families probably. Mm-hmm. A lot of time, like, or it was, if it wasn't that, it was the like the preppy jocks, like kind of being, I don't know, hotheads, I guess. Very stereotypical.
Where do you have any idea? It sounds like you there's a common theme that I keep seeing in your life.
Please share. Yeah.
That you like to help people.
Yes.
From your early age with your brother and teaching him everything you knew, for
Yeah.
better or for worse.
Yeah,
Like
yes, yeah.
I think your intentions were probably good.
Yes, yeah.
To becoming, as you said, self-proclaimed king of the rejects. And even from your introduction, I think that I pulled right off your website somewhere that your ultimate goal is to help people.
Yeah.
Do you think were you just born with this? Was it the way your parents treated you? Where did this
I think it definitely played into probably how I was raised a little bit. My mom is very, very kind-hearted. She grew up from nothing, and now is doing very well for herself and has continued to help her family because of that. And so I think that's played a role in it. I think sometimes one of the things that my mom jokes is like something about, I can't remember what she phrased, but it's like basically she always drove that home. Like we were growing up. I remember like my mom always hosting parties and treating her employees to different stuff, and just being kind of like a caretaker, so to speak. And so I think that's kind of played into it. I honestly, like, I can't really like pin it. I think it's like better or worse is a great way to put it. Of like, it's just like, I just want to help people. And so that's been a journey in itself of like, okay, well, I need to kind of help myself. and so like not to continue to pour from empty cup, continue to not be so much of a people pleasing person and be like, okay, like owning your stuff, owning your values, owning your boundaries and stuff like that. And so that's been a whole entire journey that I'm still honestly navigating even now into my 30s. Some of it potentially could be a trauma response. Some of it I think is just who I am as a person, of just like, wearing my heart on my sleeve and being loyal and caring and kind and trying to help and better my community. And sometimes I think that can definitely bit me in the butt just for the fact that some people didn't ask for it. And that's also on me. And then also the fact of just like not being cautious enough of giving that loyalty and giving that passion and that kindness too freely has a cost. Mm-hmm. And so learning that aspect as well has been really painful and difficult to manage and navigate, because it hasn't at the same time, like, and this is the thing that, like, it's like trying to break my own promises sometimes, and meaning that, like, even though I know my heart is on my sleeve, I haven't wanted to shield it. I haven't wanted to stop being kind or caring. I've been continuing to choose the path to be kind and caring and navigate the consequences of when I give too much, or I'm stretching myself too thin, or putting myself out there still, even though I'm I might get bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that same problem too. It's an interesting one.
It's
Similar to you, I also can't put in a pin in it. Like sometimes when you think about
I get lost in it. I didn't even really, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you do something, you're like, it's completely intentional. Like, this isn't gonna outdo me or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna throw me off maybe, or not gonna hurt me financially. Whatever it is, like, you think there's no repercussion basically. Like, there's only good repercussions.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing it, and then it doesn't turn out. You're like, fudge. Like, crap. Like, but I maybe I'm wrong, but at the same time, it's because I hope that people would do that same for me. I think it's because I knew what it's like to grow up with nothing, with no friends, with very little, and so I don't want those people to experience that. And I think that's also like literally the double-edged sword a little bit of, is like, I know what it's like to be completely alone. I know what it's like to not have anybody there to help pick you back up, or not knowing where to turn, or to struggle with whatever. It's like I didn't just elevate to where I'm at without going through a lot of hardship. I didn't. There was a lot of growth and learning along the way, and I'm still, like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize, because I really, doesn't sound weird, but I enjoy listening to you speak about yourself, because I also, like, I wanted to learn more about David. Like, I think somebody that, like, putting off this amazing podcast, has all these different guests, trying to really get to know humanity, while also elevating it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's kind of like,
you can come back and we can talk about me again or something. Because I wanted to ask you, at what point did you feel like you were the most alone?
That's a great question. Probably when I was in Wyoming. And this is the funny part, is like, I had a great amount of people and mentors and things, but it's hard because I get along with so many people, meaning that, like, I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I love learning people. And it's a great team around me, but then I still didn't really feel like I had anybody that, like, understood me, or even, like, fully did I even really understand myself. And I remember having a lot of, like, just lonely nights, maybe, even, like, even crying about it a few times, where it's just like, just out of frustration, out of just, like, of trying to figure out. And I think at the time it was definitely, for me, it was probably women. Women were definitely a big thing for me. Like, I would let them lead too much of my life. And so then, even when I wasn't dating one or anything, like, I was still bettering myself. I was always constantly becoming a better man, because I wanted to have a successful relationship. And so then I continued to always be a better guy. But at the same time, I was not realizing that I needed to pour more into myself. If that makes any sense. It's really weird. You're like, well, you're being a better person, but I was being a better person for others, not being a better person for myself, and not realizing that I can continue to be a better person for others and still not, basically, I guess, give myself enough self-love or to really own me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just pouring that love back into myself. And I think that shift definitely happened probably in my mid to early 20s. A lot of just empty nights of, probably going to the club or something, or going out drinking, and just like, not finding not finding anybody to connect with. It didn't even have to be about girls. It was like, I couldn't find any people to vibe with, or to like hang out with, or to drink with, or whatever else. Cause it's like, I've moved to cities multiple times by myself and not had anybody there. Like, not that I didn't have friends or family in my life somewhere in the world, but it's like, I went to somewhere that I didn't know anybody. And so usually it takes about a year to 6 months to 2 years to finally start like establishing a community, start establishing friends, start establishing, people and stuff like that. At least for me, that's been my timeline. Like, usually it takes me wherever place I've moved, it generally has taken me about a year and a half to 2 years to feel comfortable with the city, find some people, find some stuff, find some clicks, find whatever. But during that time, for a lot of it, like in the past, obviously it's a little different now, but in the past, it's like, I didn't realize that I just needed to ground myself more into the new location instead of just continue to seek external validation or external things. So yeah, it's kind of a long answer to your thing, but the loneliness was definitely was when I was Cheyenne and coming up, and we can go back into that, man. See, I lost my house that looked like a castle. It was an awesome house. Well, I didn't lose it. I made poor choices, I guess. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation, but basically made poor choices. I should have just kept the house and just stayed where I was, but I didn't. And I moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and had a bedroom inside some old lady's house that I didn't even really know. She had one other dude there also that I didn't know. And because she was just renting out some rooms in her house to help try to pay for the house while she renovated the house. And that was like my first place. And I moved myself completely out of my old house. Like, I moved completely. I mean, the things that I was able to lift and carry, like, you're like, how did you even do that? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea how I moved some of the things that I moved by myself. Loaded a trailer, got it all down there. Some of it got poured on in rain. So then I'm having to like throw away my mattress, and I didn't have like a bed. I ended up like sleeping on a cot for 6 months while I was there. So it was kind of a cascading thing. Now that you have me keep thinking about it, it's like, we're like, what's the lonely side? It was like, I was going through a lot of external things also, and like, and I was just dealing with it and managing them. And it's like, but I wasn't really, it's like you forget to pour the water out of your own boat. You don't realize that there's water pouring in your boat because you're dealing with all this other stuff. And like, it wasn't out of negligence. It was literally, I wasn't aware that there was water pouring in my boat. I was like, I didn't even think about how bad, I didn't think about how bad it was. The fact that I was like in this one small, like, I mean, the room was, it was small. Like, it was just, it was just tiny, small. And there was a sump pump in it. That was the worst too. Cause like there was a sump pump.
What's that?
Like a pump for water. So like every time it would flood in the basement, I could hear this pump in the corner of my room go and like suck the water. So every time it rained, like it wouldn't like flood badly or anything in the basement, but it would like this little one sump pump would prevent the basement from flooding, and it had just happened to be in my room.
Good.
Sorry, you're making me think of memories that I didn't think of. So yeah, so it's like, it was just, it was a cascading of things of, I was lonely because also my environment was lonely. It was hard. You know what I mean? It was a challenging time environmentally on top of socially and society. Cause I was in a new city. I'd never really been there before. I didn't really know the people there, even though I had, like I said, work wise, I had a good team. That team eventually became really good friends. They're still like friends I don't talk to very often today, but amazing people that let me, stay at their house and grow and see their family grow and be part of a community. And I'm very, very grateful for that, and very sad that the team wasn't able to stay together today. Like, it was honestly one of my favorite time in my entire life of technology and projects and everything else. Cause it was a well-oiled machine. We had an amazing supervisor that was kind and firm, and we had amazing coworkers that wanted to make good money, but also wanted to work together and just get stuff done. But then also at the end of the day, wanted to go get drinks and hang out and talk and barbecue and just, live life and make money. And it was kind of a, it was kind of a fun thing that I missed. And I'm glad I found that. And that's what pulled me out of my loneliness, was just that connection of really pouring more into these coworkers that just happen to be, you know, kind enough to let me actually into their lives outside of work, basically.
Was this did you move to Wyoming for work? Is that why you moved?
Yes. So I had a job for the Wyoming Medium Security Prison in Torrington, Wyoming, where I started my career with the state of Wyoming. During that time, the state of Wyoming decided to consolidate all of their IT departments into one IT department called ETS, Enterprise Technology Services. And so when that happened, I no longer just supported a prison. I also supported multiple different agencies throughout the state, or throughout my coverage region, basically. And so I, you know, supported Department of Family Services, Department of Health Services, parole, geological surveys, just you name it, any department out in the field, I was their technology support, which became a huge blessing for me with my career because I learned so much because of that, and it's definitely assisted me today with where I'm at. Well, eventually I got promoted. I was able to apply for a promotion down in Cheyenne, where is the capital of the state of Wyoming. And so then I moved down there, and that's kind of what caused that. While I was working in Torrington in that medium security, I was commuting, I think, 45 minutes to Scottsbluff, Nebraska. So I lived in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, which is just on the border of Torrington, Wyoming. And so that's how Nebraska still kind of played in. But I hadn't been in Nebraska before I got that job. I actually was working in Wheatland, Wyoming, or living in Wheatland, Wyoming for the first little bit when I got that job in Torrington, where I lived and worked on a 10-acre ranch that I had, where I had like 50 goats and different stuff. And like I was still married then. And I had, I think, just one son during that time. And I was also working like 100 hours weeks for like Dish Network and stuff. So like most of my life, I've worked 2 to 3 jobs because of just the level of like energy and drive that I have it was to be successful and chase that, you know, that dollar amount that I thought was going to create the freedom. And now I've realized that I need more money. But now trying to also balance that between burning myself out and getting that bag, so to speak. And honestly, the more money for me is honestly so I can just help more people, to be honest. Like it's kind of a catch-22, because it's like, yes, I want to improve my quality of living and stuff like that, and I want to be able to create my location freedom, but I know if I'm able to then be my best self, if I'm able to set up my environment and situate my life in the best self and create this financial abundance, I'm going to be able to then pour and change myself, my friends, my community, and those around me, and I can start actually invoking more good change into the world. I mean, that's one of the reasons why in my past, you know, I was a vice president of Fraternity of Eagles. That's why I helped out at a suicide awareness and prevention organization. Like, that's why I actually here in Austin, I haven't done it lately. Life's been a little bit more chaotic, but I used to, go to the food bank and help, and do like, I really do want to give up and do more. But at the same time, I've learned that if I can't get my own head straight, if I can't get myself kind of pouring almost, I nickname it kind of like a waterfall effect, where it's like, it's kind of like, I got to get my cup overfilling so then I can overfill everything else down beneath me. But if I choose to just be a lake, that lake's just going to eventually dry up, because it's just like, there's no new river pouring in the, like, I get to build the infrastructure basically to keep myself and my kind heart sustained. Yeah. So
You have a son.
I do. I have 2 sons.
Are they here in Austin?
They are not. They're 8 hours away in New Orleans. So Asher and Ezekiel.
Asher and Ezekiel.
Yes.
Those are powerful names.
Yes. I'm not very religious now, but at one point I was a Messianic Jew. Basically means that I was with my partner, my wife at the time, and her family basically believed in a lot of Jewish practices, but they believed that basically the Messiah did rise again, basically. So it was kind of interesting. But yeah, that's they're biblical, a little bit out of the Torah, basically, names.
Asher is?
Asher and Ezekiel.
I didn't know Asher was. Obviously, Ezekiel, anyone could probably be like, that has biblical roots to it.
Asher also Asher's also in there.
Are you still a practicing Messianic Jew?
I am not currently. Now I'm more, I still believe in God, but I would say I'm not really into one religion. I also grew up Catholic, so like I have had a roller coaster of religious beliefs and adjustments and stuff like that. That's a whole other like thing that, I mean, whole other podcast we probably could go down and talk to, depending on what, what your viewership wants to listen to. But yeah, it's, I find it, very, very fascinating. But now I would say I'm more just, I believe in God, but I'm more of just kind of an open-minded, still navigating, my path with him, to be honest. I feel there's too many, constraints in certain, well, I wouldn't say religion, I would just say in religions in general. I think there's a lot of, man-made things that have kind of inundated, beliefs. So
Does cursing bother you?
no, not at all.
I've noticed that I dropped a few and you have not yet. I don't think.
No, I, which is hilarious. My mom would be very happy. No, I love to cuss. Like the F bomb, like my friends will joke and like, how did you say it like 27 times? I'm like, yes, I did just say it 27 times in just an hour or something, something like, yeah. So no, I cuss very profusely. I feel like it makes life more fun.
It does. It does.
And they've shown it helps with pain, and supposedly you're more intelligent if you curse. So, I'll pull up the data again.
I do pick and choose where I use it. I haven't heard that one before, but
yeah, I've actually, I've read some article about it, but I know the pain one for sure. There's something to do with the pain. I think it's just like, it's a way of like, it's just dispersing it. It's like, it gives us a way to have like an out.
yeah. So you're just going to have to come back. There's going to be a round two. I'm going to be, when I'm editing this, I'm going to go through and I'll be taking notes about follow-up questions I wanted to ask you. What's your relationship like with your sons these days?
It's strained, to be honest. Like, I don't get to see them as much as I would like. Especially when I'm not doing as well financially, it's harder to see them because it costs me close to $1,000 a trip to go see them.
Right.
For a while I was able to see them every month. Lately it's been every couple months. In part because my ex-wife isn't able to help financially contribute for them to come see me. And so that's caused additional, like, just everything's on me. I'm actually getting to go see my boys. They're coming in, they're flying in, which is also great. They're getting closer to the age where it's like, I can fly them on a plane. I feel they're mature enough. They're calm enough that they can fly. And so I'm hoping in the future, I'm going to actually just keep flying them here to Austin, but they're going to fly here, I think this week. And we're going to go to San Pedro's. The island, or I probably butchered that. St. Padres, whatever. I don't know. There's some island near, not. Anyways, there's some Texas area that we're gonna go at a beach house, and my mom's coming in, and we're gonna celebrate my stepfather's 60th birthday, and I'm gonna spend time with my boys, and my girlfriend's gonna be there, and we're just gonna kind of just have like a little family powwow because, if you haven't figured out, my family's kind of spread out throughout the U.S., and so having them all in one thing, I'm really looking forward to that. It's been definitely hard with them as they get older too, because I've been trying to, like, they're on Messenger and stuff, like Facebook Messenger, like there's like a kid Messenger. And so I try to hit them up on there, but then now they're not as active on there. And I know also it's like, it's making sure not to take things personally. So like anybody out there, like, it's like, if you have, if you've been through a divorce, if you have kids or anything, like, it's not about you. Like, it really isn't. Like, it's like, yes, like, I'm trying to be there as much as possible. Like, hey, I'm available for phone call. I try to call them. I'm navigating the stuff with the ex, but I also can tell, like, they're kids. Like, they're distracted just like you were, with video games and all the other stimulation. And back to what we kind of talked, I don't know if we were on the podcast thing, because we've been talking a minute, but like with a puppy, you know what I mean? The puppy's only been in the world, let's say 3-4 months. If it's a, newer puppy, it's the same thing with a 12-year-old kid. It's like, he's still new to just experiencing this world. Like, even 12 years old, it's like, you've seen lots and nothing all at the same time. Like, you've barely, some people have never even left, that their little city that they're in at that age, and so it's just like, I'm constantly reminding myself of like, hey, I need to continue to, show up and be the best father that I can be and navigate the situation. I didn't also, caveat for the listeners, I didn't choose for them to move to New Orleans. Like, that was not my thing. At the time I was seeing them, I think every other weekend. They lived like an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. And I was able to see them all the time, but then she approached me and said, hey, me and my, I think boyfriend or husband, I don't remember at the time, was like, hey, we want to move down to his family in New Orleans. It's supposed to be better opportunities, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, cool. I kind of wanted to maybe move that kind of gave me able to have my wings. Cause I'm like, well, I didn't want to move away from them. I didn't want to be farther away. So I'm like, but this creates that potential opportunity. That's also part of one of the reasons I moved to Austin was like, that was one of the closest ways I could get to them. Cause I don't know what viewers know about New Orleans, or Louisiana. It's just not the place for me. It's just not my vibe. I've been there many, many times now. I've traveled there. I mean, I've lived here 4 or 5 years and I've traveled 8-hour drives one way many times to go see them. Especially a lot more in the past. Honestly, that surgery really hit me. When I getting my pec ruptured, a year ago really impacted me traveling and going to see them a lot too. And so I think that's definitely been hard. It's been hard also because it's like, I feel like I'm reliving my generational trauma because I am from 2 brothers, single mom. Now she's not a single mom, but it's like the same thing of like, and they have other siblings. My 2 boys that live with their half siblings, but it's like that's also, I think, eats at me too. Like, not that I let that keep me from stuff, but it's like, that's another angle. I guess I'm bringing up to the audience of like, it's really interesting to navigate where it's like, oh shit, like, you're trying to be a better father than your father. You're trying to do these different things when he was navigating very similar pain points, trying to see me, as I'm trying to now see my own sons. And so it's just kind of like very interesting in that aspect of like trying to navigate. But one of the things I told my girlfriend of what I'm hoping, and this is like putting it out in the universe of like what I hope really happens is when they get, 18, 17, whatever, or the age, I hope they come live with me for a couple of years. I hope I'm able to get them as kind of young men and just have them, rent free, have fun, but just come live with me so I can, show them some of the stuff that I know, teach them a little bit more stuff. They're going to be a little bit less, distracted, more mature. Not that I don't do that stuff now and share that stuff with them when I have it, but it's like when I go down there for like a weekend, it's 8 hours one way. So let's say I leave Friday night after work, I get there 3, 4 in the morning. I sleep. I try to wake up as early as I can, which is like 9, 10. And then I go get them. And then it's like, okay, then we maybe go get some food, try to like go do something fun, maybe go for a hike, maybe play video games in the evening. And then that's Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm already like, shoot, I have to give them back to their mom pretty early, usually like, early afternoon. Cause I got to get 8 hours back so I can get ready to almost live another life. Like it's very, like one of the reasons why Kai is so dimensional is this. It's like I have 2 beautiful, amazing kids that I love deeply that I'm not able to be myself. And meaning that like when I'm them, I have to be, I can't even be fully myself because I need to focus on just, having them good time. I can't share different download, we just don't have enough time. And then I come out back over here and it's like, I'm not a father, so to speak, even though I am. And it's like I have a whole other life over here that they don't really have an idea about. I try to share videos. I try to bring stuff. Like for a while, I was hauling all of my, like not all of it, but a lot of my workout equipment with me because I wanted to work out there, but also to show them, hey, these are some cool things. Like just to, like show them other different aspects of life and things, and just try to help them know more. Show them, different jiu-jitsu moves and stuff that I know and different things. And that got me in a little bit in trouble because they were then jiu-jitsuing their siblings. But I was very proud.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that was. I was like awesome. I was a good teacher. They learned. But because that was one of the things I remember with my dad is like I bonded really heavily with like wrestling and just kind of just playing around and being kind of goofy as a kid, and so like I brought that to them. But yeah, it's I'm gonna kind of leave it there, but it's a lot to navigate on multiple different levels because I'm having to navigate life differently because of it. And decisions and everything that that you make, because it can impact. It can still impact them. As an example of is like, there's certain times like, well, do I want to move from Austin? I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, but at the same time, I have to have a location here, or I need to have a location closer to them, or I need ultimate goal 5 years from now or less is like the location freedom is really big for me. I want to be able to have my finances in order where it's like. I got a lot more of my debts down and everything else, and just get things in order so I can just be able to travel more, have a job or a business or whatever, or I can kind of move a little bit, because for me, traveling just really, oh my gosh, that's a whole other subject a little bit, but it's like it helps me so tremendously. Like being able to, the fact that I went to Alaska for a little while was incredible, and just that peace and that fresh air, and I felt so grounded in it, and just at peace. I don't know how else to describe it. And then just being able to come back and see the world, like see the world from a plane, see the world, just get you get a perspective on reality that you don't get very often when you're just going from, your home to work, or even if you work remote, like, cause I work remote some days. And so it's like when you just don't even leave your home, like, it's easy to forget about everything else out there when, you're here.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a time in, I believe it was May 23rd, 2021, that you left Austin and you went to Denver, Colorado, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Panama City Beach, Florida, Pinnacle Mountain State Park in Arkansas, back for Texas for, if I could get the timeline right, maybe like 2 to 4 weeks, and then you were off to California and then New Orleans, and then you were back in Austin by mid-July.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun month.
That was incredible. That was because I think that was my friend moving. So I think my friend Max was moving from Cheyenne to Florida, and so I was helping him move, driving the truck so I could help him like basically get there. And then we had to unload the vehicle, and then our buddy Jake was going to meet us in Panama to hang out in Panama for a little bit. And then I think we had my MMA team ended up having fights in Arkansas, and so then that's why we were in Arkansas. And then of course, like the following weekend, I had to go see my children. So then I was going over to New Orleans to go see them. That was great. That was a lot of fun. That was exhausting. I remember being very, very tired by all that, but my cup was so full, because it's like, I got to hang out with one of my best friends of 15 years. I got to see one of my other friends, good friends, come down and just hang out and just be the boys. Like, those are the same guys that were with me, before I left my house in Scottsbluff. Like, they actually came in and moved in that house and helped me actually afford the mortgage for a little while, which was great. And so we really got a bond, and we used to go have wings every Wednesday at Applebee's. That was just like, we could just walk down the street. And so that was fun. Like, it was really good to then like see those guys and really have like kind of a, the boys are back in town kind of moment. While then in turn getting to spend time with, kind of the new boys, so to speak, the new community that I had built out, with my MMA team and everything else. And then seeing my actual boys, and my family. It was very, really, really amazing. I'm surprised I navigated all. I think at that time, I still had PTO. FYI, currently I don't get any pay time off, so that makes life really hard. I have 2 days a week.
You're a business owner, essentially.
Well,
so
not just that. I still work for. So I currently work for the state of Texas as a contractor, and so in my contractor position, if I don't work, I basically lose. I could lose like $1,000 a day, basically.
Right.
And so like not working costs me a lot of money, when I'm currently navigating financials right now, because I have invested so much into my own business as kind of my own investor. And so that aspect of also, like, I still have loans and credit cards and all these other stuff that I use to basically leverage to try to build this stuff out. Cause that's the other thing that, don't recommend it, but it's kind of like, if you really want to start a business, like, you're going to do whatever it takes to get that business going. And so that is some of the aspect is like, it's like, I got loans, I got 7 credit card and everything, because I wanted this to succeed. And I would say it's still somewhat succeeding. I think success is going to look differently for everybody. I think right now I'm in the phase of my business kind of shifting and growing and trying to figure out where I fit into this different industry, because as you go down stuff with any business, you're like, I don't know if I like operating the service. Because like, in my opinion, you want your business to not run you want to run the business. And so navigating and figuring all that out is a whole journey in itself. And back to all this other stuff I talked about all the same, but it's like, I somewhat, as you can see, it's like I do it to myself, but like entrepreneurship isn't easy. And so like I continue to find and pick these things in my life that are kind of harder paths that are very, as I would, very high risk, high reward kind of aspect. But that also means like, there's not always a reward. And so it's like, you got to learn and balance all of that. And so that's also part of the reason I think I I'm working lots, or like, in this different situations, I'm gambling. You know what I mean? Like 100%, I'll own it. Like, it's like some of it, it's like, I don't say like this is always the best move, but it's like I'm gambling a little bit to take these risks so that I can hopefully gain the success, whether that success is helping people, whether that's helping, hopefully it's like, ideally it's like, it's helping myself, it's helping them, it's growing, it's creating an impact, it's creating a legacy, maybe even potentially creating generational wealth. So it's not only, changing my life today, or my kids' life, it's creating life changing for their kids, and then hopefully onwards. Like, it's actually creating a nest that can have that ripple. I think I mentioned that a couple times, maybe in and off the podcast. Like, we had great conversation prior to the podcast also, but yeah, that's all I got for a minute.
Do you have any other entrepreneurs or founders or business owners in your life right now?
The other person that I have worked with is my partner and girlfriend, Kelly. She really helps me. I am surrounded by a few other entrepreneurs here and there that I could reach out to or talk to if I have questions. Some of the stuff is hard because it's like you can't navigate. Like, sometimes you don't have questions, and like and what I mean by that is, it's like you're navigating the situation and you're going, but it's like the question is so specific to you that it's like only you can answer that question. Like, you can get insights, so it's like, but you can ask them like on a section of it or a piece of it, but I have yet to find like the right mentor or entrepreneur or somebody else that's in the same veins.
Can I rephrase it then?
Yeah, please.
Not so much looking for a mentor, but I just went to something. Have you heard of the Internet Marketing Party?
No, I've not heard of that one.
So I just went. It's a once a month event here in Austin. $39 to get in.
Okay.
It's about 3 or 4 hours, and I absolutely loved it. And part of the reason I loved it and hated it was because I felt like I was more behind. Not behind. I'm thinking about what you said earlier about choice of words.
I love that.
Let me put it this way: the podcast is not making money. I don't know if I want to or even care that it makes money, but the bulk of the people I spoke with last night have businesses that are generating 6 figures or more.
Yep.
And so what I liked, and it also was like jabbing at my ego the entire night, was being like the youngest person in a sense of like revenue production. At the same time, I loved the event because I did not go because I feel stuck with the podcast. I don't have any questions about the podcast. I just went because I'm being more thoughtful about who I'm spending my time with. And the people were the exact people I was looking for. I was like, thank God all of you guys are here, because I needed this. So I was more giving a vague beating around the bush invitation to, if you want to go with me in August, I'd love to have you.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I think it's worth I know we're both busy, but this for me, I could tell is worth carving out the time once a month to make it a priority.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely talk more. I'm definitely interested.
I'll shoot you some information.
Well, and thank you for segueing that. That's the hard part. And also you hit it on the head of like surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. And that's such a thing to navigate, because at the same time you're like, shoot, I'm not at that level for where I want to be for this thing, or maybe I don't know if I even want to be at that thing for this thing. But it's like, but yes, those are the people that I'm trying to at least understand or relate to or look up to. Even like, the famous ones that I can think of off the top of my head is like Cody Sanchez and Alex Hormozi. Like, those guys for me are huge, and they're fairly famous in their podcast, their Instagram, and everything like that. You can go look at Gary V's, another guy.
Who's that?
I'm kidding. I was like, wait. I was like, you don't know Gary. Like, Gary V's almost more popular than the other two I mentioned. Cody Sanchez is actually here in Austin, which is really cool. As a female entrepreneur. And then obviously Alex Hormozi, gym guy, probably people know about him. And then Gary V, just marketing and wine. And Gary, he's eccentric. Like that guy's amazing.
He's fun to listen to.
Yes. Yeah. Shoot, I forgot where I was going with this.
We were talking about the intentionality of who we surround ourselves.
Yes. So, and exactly. And so it, like, that's been my juggling act of trying to have people in my life, because it's like, I want to help people and I want to lift them up to where I'm at, because I believe of, like, tide raises all, a rising tide raises all ships kind of thing. And so, but at the same time, I've had where it's like, if I'm helping everybody and most of the people that are in my circle that are close to me are not doing as well as they would like, and they don't have the information or the things where I want to go, I get kind of stuck. And so then it's like, okay, but it's like, not that I don't get to interact with some of those people here and there, but it's not enough. Like it's like maybe once a month. It's maybe like it, and that can help, like depending on how good you are with taking information and then taking action after that information.
Yep.
Because it's like you can get all the information in your world, but if you don't take action with it, it's like it doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, I think that plays back into the earlier in the podcast of like the people pleasing aspect of stuff. It's like I'm trying to help people, but at the same time, it's like I have. Not that I'm looking for a handout, but it's like I've had a hard time finding people that are willing to help me. Not that I haven't had any in my life, but I mean, like, and sometimes but here's the other, is back to the question aspect. It's like sometimes we don't, or I would say we for like, and I'm not saying like you and me, but I mean like just we as a collective of like, it's hard sometimes knowing how to ask for help or like where to ask for help or to phrase the question correctly. Because you, like in the moment or the thing, it's like, yeah, maybe I just need a Band-Aid for my finger, but that actually doesn't necessarily fix the root of why you need a Band-Aid for your finger. Let's say, let's say like every time you're cutting meat or something like that, and it like there's some kind of malfunction with the thing where it's just like you're going and you're cutting it and you just keep cutting your finger on it because it's like it needs this fix, but you don't know why this piece is broken or why it keeps cutting you, or like you don't understand it. So yet again, you don't know how to ask the question of like how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of part of the thing. But if you can surround yourself with people that are already kind of succeeding where you want to go, it doesn't matter whether or no the question, you literally, like, I don't know how this works, but it's amazing. But you get some of, I don't know, like their knowledge, their aura, their vibes, whatever. You get some of what they're drinking, their Kool-Aid they're drinking, just by being around them, by witnessing them, by watching. You get those little nuggets. You're like, oh, I didn't even realize I had a question for that, but you just answered it. Like, awesome. Just by speaking or just by showing up or just by watching the way they interact with the environment. Like it's just because of how they move through the world.
One thing I have not done, but I want to do, this is the first time I've ever said this out loud, and I'd be curious to get your 2 cents on it, is you're probably guessed like 82, 83, 84, something like that, all right? And only one person has flown in, so all these people live here in Austin, Texas, for the most part, and all of you have just brought such unique perspective to the table. I wonder what it would look like if I could get all of us under one roof.
Like a round table or something, yeah.
Yeah, or even just like the David Saturday Night Sit Back annual networking event where all the guests actually get to meet each other. Because a few of them have known each other. So I'll have like Tom on, and then Tom will be like, hey, you should have Pat. So Pat will come on. He'll be like, you should have on Jack. And so that's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, none of you know each other. And it's not even a thing like, I genuinely wouldn't really have any agenda. It would just be like, what would happen if we all, shared a meal or had some drink, whatever the thing is. And like I said, for me, it's mainly just like, I think it would come down to a financial thing of like, I wouldn't want to charge for it. And I also don't have the money to like be throwing
a banquet basically.
It'd be like it'd be like a wedding, Yeah, I wish. If Costco wants to sponsor the podcast, so I could do that, I'm not going to mind. But I just think it's just an idea that has come to mind more than once. I'm like, that would be so freaking cool. Because it'd be a room full of comedians, weightlifters, MMA fighters, musicians, actors, actresses, documentarians. Like, it'd be a wild, eclectic mix of humanity.
No, that sounds amazing, though. Like, see, that's probably one. Like, I think that's one why we click so well. Is just like you seem like a person. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but like you want to learn about different people. Like you want to learn their perspective, their ideas. Because, and for me, like it's because it's like I benefit, but also it's like I'm fascinated. It just it scratches your brain, so to speak. Like you're just like, wow, that's an interesting perspective, or the way you view the world is so different but awesome.
Yeah. Where do you want to see? What impact do you want to have in the next year?
Oh, Okay, now, when you mean next year, like by the end of this year with this last 6 months that we have left, or the next July,
The next
basically?
12 months.
So that's 12. We get 12 months. Okay. Let's see. Well, it starts personal for me, and it means like I want to be back on my routine of lifting, training, getting more into mixed martial arts. One of the things that I realized early on in my life that is like I had to be doing something physical. Like I show up so much better in the world for myself, for my relationships, for my business, if I'm able to be an athlete. And I might not be the most graceful athlete. I may not be the most athletic athlete. I may not be the most winning athlete, but I got to be an athlete in some form. I have to be like, I can't just, I need the community aspect. I need the fitness aspect. I need the dopamine, whatever it is all about it. I function better. That's one of the reasons why I kind of said earlier in the podcast of like, if I'm going to do anything, it's like, it takes anything, it's going to be like the physical fitness aspect of stuff and mixed martial arts and stuff like that. So I hope I'm back to that. And so what is the catalyst of those things going well for me is I'm hoping to get some of our online courses done. That's one of the things that we've been wanting to push and get done is be able to create more of our information and knowledge into digital media. So that way we can create more passive income. So we're not having to, work as hard or have to be like present to be able to deliver it, so to speak. Because I know my partner and girlfriend has amazing ideas and things to put down on paper just based off of her knowledge and my knowledge and that aspect. I hope to have more peace and stability. I hope to be heading in a direction where I'm more financially abundant to be able to then hopefully create more impacts. It's hard because it's like, and what I mean by that is like, and you said just a year out, it's like, sometimes I think I get too ahead of myself of the amount of things that is actually maybe not logical, but, that is a good word, but like, feasible in a short amount of time. Because like, I can't say some of these ideas because like, I know that's the other thing I've noticed that whether it is the universe or people, like it's like they do listen, and so I've said ideas in the past before, and I've seen them then grow and grow and grow, and I don't get to be part of any of it, and it's very frustrating because I'll witness and even remember in date time when I said these particular things, and someone else happened to be in the room that has more financial capital than myself and is able to then actually strive with that idea and actually have somewhat success with it. Now, they may not know all the different nuances and how they can actually add and create additional revenue off of what they did. But it's enough to basically create something. And so I'm hoping that, like I said, I'm able to get more passive income going. I'm hoping that I can actually have a more stable environment for running clients and working with more clients. Just meaning that like currently for a while I basically had a home studio and we were having good success in running clients there, but then I helped a friend that friends that needed a place to stay, and so it's really hard to run clients out of a house when you already have 2 additional guests on top of their pets, and so that added a little bit. So I'm hoping that I can continue to kind of just restabilize and create more peace and harmony in my own home. So then that way I can have controlled chaos is a good way to put it. Cause I just got a puppy. And so like, that was kind of the only chaos I really want in my life is a little puppy. And I kind of, I've created more than that, by overstretching myself. So hopefully, I think the conclude the year mark is hopefully there's more like a stability and peace, I guess, in my life.
I love that. We're not necessarily ending here, but is there anything specifically that you were hoping we would chat about today that hasn't been brought up yet?
The only thing I think was, and we kind of sort of briefly talked about it, is just the impact of technology on humans today and how it is good and it's a yes and. Yeah, I don't want to say it's good and bad. It just really is a yes and, because I think there's so many benefits to this technology, but I think at the same time there is a large amount of caution that I think some people are starting to catch on, but I don't think it's something that is like a common knowledge. I don't think many people realize the effects of the high levels of screen time and the connectivity of our world impacts. Actually, one thing I can actually really share that's super kind of cool that just recently happened was CrowdStrike. If anybody don't know what CrowdStrike is an advanced cybersecurity company that is, in my opinion, one of the best in the world. And they recently launched an update that basically broke a bunch of Microsoft Windows operating systems to basically crash blue screen. And that took down airlines, that took down states, that took down hospitals.
This was on Friday, right?
This took down companies all across the world because CrowdStrike is one of the best in the world. And so there's a lot of agents. That's how they manage their component on these machines. And so that agent went to get an update and basically blue screened and something didn't work correctly with the operating system. And so it crashed all these operating systems. And there was no way, from my knowledge, to fix the operating systems without removing a file. So basically, even if you rebooted the machine, it would just still blue screen again, over and over and over again, until you took it into Windows recovery mode and was able to remove this file. So the reason I share that with technology is a perfect example of how one company that has got a lot of agents across the world can drastically impact us. And nobody, and obviously now after the fact they do, but nobody was like, well, should we have backups to things? Should we, like, it's just disaster recovery and like, the impact of how technology affects us is still often an afterthought for millions of people. And I think that is a whole other aspect besides the dopamine aspect that is really affecting your society as we become more interconnected, without any kind of redundancies or without any kind of backup plans, or sometimes without even the proper, security. Because I mean, perfect example is like, every single day we use Instagram or use Facebook. You're paying for it. Well, like, how are you paying for it? Well, your data, all your insights, everything you go view on your phone, everything, depending on the permissions of the application that is on your phone, it is able to then see everything. Sometimes, example is TikTok, it can turn on your microphone if they wanted to, anytime they wanted, their camera, everything. They can do whatever they wanted to your device based off of just installing that one app and accepting their terms of service. And so like, there's tons of different stuff where it's like, we're the product actually. Like, it's like we're contributing to it in some form, and we're just continuing to do it. And I'm just as guilty of this as our viewers. Like, it's just like, I'm still trying to navigate and figure out how to deal with this, and how I want to deal with it for my children, for myself, going forward. But anyways.
No, just a couple things that went through my head as you were talking. One, when you first walked in, you made a Matrix reference, and then hearing you talk about how we're the products while there's a storm going on outside really made it feel like Morpheus and Neo when they met for the first time. And they were talking about the red pill versus blue pill.
Yes,
so
yeah.
That's just sort of where my wild imagination went for a second. The other thing that I thought of when you were talking about the crash on Friday is when the hurricane hit Houston. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago, very recently. And my internet went down for about 2 days, as I'm sure it did in Austin, as the other parts of Austin. And for me, it was sort of nice because it was like, well, I can't work, so I guess I'm just going to get some reading in, work on that puzzle over there. Like, I just sort of hung out with the dog and like took 30 hours off from life. But what was concerning to me was I didn't realize how much of my life was online. It's like, I can't podcast right now, can't watch TV, can't play music, or I could play music because my phone has so I had music. But it was a sort of an eye-opening moment of like, if it went down for like 3 weeks, it sure would be nice if I had a way to still podcast, even if it was more work. Like, I don't know if this setup right now could work without the internet. So like, if it did go down though, it'd be sweet to be able to hit you up and be like, Kai, you want to come over? Like, we can burn a couple hours and record a few episodes, but I can't right now because we're so dependent on it. And it's it was sort of scary to me just how much of our life has become online.
Yeah, that's a great example. Great real world example. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I my head has been in the sand a lot more. I would say in the last couple of years, but meaning that like Houston was pretty bad. Like, I mean, they had streets flooded. I know that the traffic lights are affected, electricity, internet. Like, I know people who were out without electricity for like a week. Like, that's really, think of how hot it is, how humid. Then you have all that moisture and all that stuff from all the whatever washed in with the stuff. Like, it's crazy that we're in 2024, yet like we still don't have like prepared. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some people are, but it's like that disasters impact us so tremendously still. You know what I mean? That like that we great humans, are still impacted by, a hurricane. Like we chose where to, like, we built these $1 million buildings. We chose to, Like there's a lot of choices that have been done.
Yeah.
And we're still in these situations. It's just, it's fascinating to me.
I thought one of your posts that made me chuckle, February of 2021, you made a comment about living in the city and being without power, but if you had been out in the country, like, you would have been fine.
Yeah, the snow
Was
apocalypse.
that giant? That was that one. I wasn't here yet for.
I'm
grateful for.
Yes, yeah. That's a perfect example. I mean, I still have my 4-wheel drive Toyota, but that was the only reason I was able to get out and do things. But it was crazy because it was like, it wasn't anything normal, like abnormal compared to like what I experienced in Alaska or Wyoming or, and then the northern parts of the US. But here in Texas, man, you get a little bit of snow and it affects the power lines or anything like that. And it's just like, it's like doomsday. It's the end of the world kind of thing. It's very, I remember literally, like, I ended up getting lucky and I was able to go with a friend that was, she and her boyfriend had like a house on the police grid or like a hospital. It was basically on the electrical grid that they were part of the grid that wasn't going to basically get turned off or had power first. But like there's people that they're thank goodness they had their propane grills. You know what I mean? Like to cook food or cook meat. I remember, wow, like lines out of HEB, and this was in Kyle, just to go in and get groceries temporarily because they opened up the store because they were able to get power in the store to be able to like sell stuff out. But like you see that in foreign countries, but I just like literally a line out, you're freezing in the cold, waiting to get your bread and milk. It was wild.
You were talking about money earlier, and like I'm one of those kind of people where I don't want to necessarily want to be rich to be rich. I want to be rich so that I can have a second home in California, and then maybe I just go back to California all winter, And if Texas gets hit with any major storms, I don't have to worry about it because I'm not here anymore. And like, when you were talking earlier about your kids, I would love to be able to fly my family out here once a month, every other month, and just pay for it and be like, don't worry about it. Just come visit.
Yeah.
You can stay at my place, or I'll put you up in a hotel or whatever. Yes. But yeah, man, it is interesting.
That's exactly it, though. That's why I'm so passionate about like the generational wealth and like why I'm so passionate about like my drive. Why did I like? It's because I want to be able to give back to all my family, my friends, and everything like that, and also help with the money. You can manage your own community a little bit easier too. Mm-hmm. You get it. It's so much easier to decide who gets to be around you and who doesn't. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kai, this has been so good.
Yeah, I hope so. I've been like eyes back in the head, kind of zone, like not zoned out, like going somewhere else, but just like this is brought up, different memories, different things, and I'm a very visual person, so like I literally see these memories in front of like you guys can't see them, but I can see them in my brain, and it's like it takes me back a little bit. But I've been really grateful to have a platform to share and talk. So thank you so much, David.
Yeah, you're welcome. This has been super fun. Do you feel good about ending here?
Yeah, I think we're at a good ending spot.
I think this is a good ending spot.
We can talk for a while or go back into, there's other topics. So I think, this is a good spot.
All right, right on. Well, to address the audience real quick, if you guys stuck with us for this episode, this was not a short one. So first off, thank you for being here. Kai, thank you for being here. This was awesome. Guys, if you stuck with us for 2 hours and 40 minutes, I'm assuming you liked what we talked about. So with that being said, I have a huge request of you. That's not going to take any of your money, only about 2.5 minutes of your time. Go give the podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I ask you guys to do this every episode. And for some reason or another, this has been like the biggest challenge is getting y'all to click over and do this very small favor for me. Just so you know, it's not even going to send you a bunch of push notifications. YouTube will send you one every Saturday when I drop an episode. But if you rate the podcast on Spotify or Apple, it doesn't really change anything. It just gives us some street cred, and it continues to help build the show, because you guys know my mission is to help as many as people as possible. And there could be young men, even some young women, who could deeply resonate with Kai's story today. And we will never meet those ears. We will never reach those ears and find those ears without your guys' help in taking these actions for me. So if you guys go do this for me, I will continue to put my time, energy, and money into finding great guests like Kai and making the show bigger and bigger and bigger for y'all. So with that being said, go leave those reviews. And in the meantime, have a healthy and happy Saturday night. Bye, everyone.
See ya.